Oh boy, DOGE. Did you guys hear a judge is ordering Donald Trump to rehire a bunch of probationary employees, saying you can't just mass fire people like this? And of course, Democrats are in protest. Liberals are upset. They view this as a very bad thing that Elon Musk is going in, and for nefarious reasons, he is gaining access to data and terminating government regulators. However, on the right, it's largely viewed as the first time anyone has actually tried to shrink the size of government. So how about we just debate that whole thing, and we'll get right to it. We got a couple gentlemen here who want to have that debate. Sir, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Hello, hi. My name is Prime Kai, Primecayes. And you can find me on Twitch and YouTube, Twitter and all that stuff. So I usually do debate streams, and I'm on the left, and I think DOGE is a problem, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, all right. Sir, who are you?
My name is Admiral Gibbs. I'm a rancher and business owner in Texas, and I do streaming, political streaming. I host the Debate Championship Series and the Give Me Break podcast on Twitch, YouTube, and everywhere else.
And you like DOGE?
I'm a big fan, huge fan.
Huge fan. Well, okay, what's wrong with DOGE?
I think DOGE undermines our democracy. I think that it's an end run around all the systems that we actually already have in place to do exactly what DOGE says it's going to do. And that's a way to avoid responsibility on our lawmakers for all the draconic changes that are going to be made.
Yeah, I mean, Prime here will have you believe that the democracy is threatened by DOGE, but the real threat to democracy, in my opinion, is unchecked bureaucracy. It's pretty clear that the Dems have set up a bureaucratic government that is basically just funneling money to all sorts of different places. And I'm a really big fan of DOGE. It seems to be peeling back this little nasty onion and letting us see what's underneath, and love it. It's what we voted for, and we're getting what we wanted.
So, you mentioned that it's undermining the structures that are already in place that should be dealing with it. What do you view those as?
Simple, right? We had the office of Inspector General, right? We have Government Accountability Office. We have the court system. We have the lawmakers themselves who have oversight. We have oversight committees that do all these things.
Do you think they were working, like they were functioning as intended?
I think they were functioning, but not to the speed that anyone is happy with. I can say that at least.
So I suppose then it's fair to say it wasn't efficient. The system that was that in your what I'm trying to say is we have this position where you're saying it was working, but it wasn't working well enough.
Yeah, but that's any system, right? And efficiency, if efficiency comes at the cost of democracy, right? If it undermines our ability, our Constitution, our system of laws, yeah, that's not acceptable. Like we can improve our processes, right? We can go through, we can improve how responsive Congress is. We can do all these things, but it's hard work. We actually need to do those.
Well, this gentleman over here says he voted for it, though. Isn't that democracy?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, when we look at the debt, right, we're at 36.22 trillion. The national debt is held by the public is 28.9 trillion. I just want to see this. It's clear something's gone wrong, right? Kevin O'Leary was recently on a show, and I was watching. He was just talking about how when you do a business, and I do this in my day-to-day life, you go in there, you evaluate what's working, you trim the hedges, and then you expand, right? You don't just keep expanding in perpetuity. And I think that's what's happened with the government. We've had Democratic leadership for 12 of the last 16 years in the presidency, and they've created this monstrous bureaucracy that definitely needs to have the hedges trimmed. And this is what I voted for, and I'm getting exactly what I wanted. I mean, look at USAID being cut, and we find out there's funding all sorts of random stuff all over the world. We're looking at things here. They argued about the DEI programs with FFA. Well, year to date, we actually have less plane crashes. I just looked that up earlier today. I mean, we're going through all these different programs. The Department of Education halved, right off the jump. I mean, big fan. All these things, things I wanted.
We've actually been going over the airline thing quite a bit, and year to date, it's worse.
Is it? I mean,
yeah,
I have the wrong data then, but that's
well. It is challenging to get the data because if you look at year-over-year data, they'll tell you about general aviation crashes, but that could include like a tug hitting a plane on the ground or something. So then when you track for fatal airline crashes, we have, I think, 3 out of 5 serious disasters so far this year. And usually you get 4 to 6 per year.
Okay.
So we already have we're way ahead of schedule or of the average so far. I don't know what the reason for that is, because I don't think Trump has been in office long enough.
I agree.
I agree with that.
Yeah, right. And so we were talking with the Ben Davidson, is that his name? Am I getting his name wrong? The space weather guy. And I'm like, everybody wants to say that it's like DEI. You've got some people on the left, they're saying, oh, it's because Trump came in with DOGE and they're gutting the FAA. People on the right are saying it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm like, I don't think DEI would happen for years and then instantly in 1 month cause a bunch of crashes.
Right.
And I don't think that Trump got into office and then instantly a bunch of crashes happened simply from him being there. So I feel like we've got an anomaly there that's hard to track.
Well, to back your point up, I like, we know we've had a shortage for aircraft controllers for 2 years now, I believe. I mean, I as like a conservative from Texans, we naturally don't like the government. I was initially hesitant when they said we're going to put DOGE in because, hey, what's that slippery slope? It's going to be, another organization wasting my tax dollars. But they've gone in there and they've done a lot of things. And with the FFA, it wasn't my favorite Trump plan so far. I could be critical of Trump. I think maybe we could have probably got a trained monkey to go in there and, watch these things better than nobody. That's better than nothing. I feel like, if we have a shortage, it's better to have somebody than nobody.
It's nonsense.
You don't agree? I mean, you could get the janitor to watch a thing.
Well,
that's better than nobody watching it, right?
I would call it absurd, but technically the truth that a trained monkey is better than no one.
Yeah.
But we don't want a trained monkey.
Sure, exactly.
No, it would be better to not have any signals from a control tower than like random signals. Sorry.
Well, no, trained monkeys. You'd be surprised. They put chimps in spaceships and they know when to trigger the boosters and whatever.
Yeah, they can go to Sputnik. They can
This
handle
is the
that.
high level conversations I came to Tim Cole to talk about. All right,
They had a dog, right? They had the dog go to space in Russia.
Yeah.
And the dog was trained when the light turns on, it paused the button, and then the things happen.
Okay, fantastic. Oh,
They didn't have.
That's my advocation for
I'll notify Elon on that one. All right, so ignoring that part, right? But so DOGE says that it hasn't actually fired, in terms of the FAA, air safety individuals, right? That's not the case. I think we actually have articles talking about this, like Rolling Stone reporting, that they spoke with FAA employee who was once among a handful of employees working on the obstacle impact team at the Mike Moroney Aeronautical Center in Oklahoma City. The team evaluates many tens of thousands of potential new hazards, such as new buildings, windmills, and especially cranes, to inform flight procedures each year. That's a person who does safety. And just like another one. A second-term employee whose job was ensuring that pilots are medically able and certified to fly. This person is also cut. And there's many other examples. These are just the ones listed in Rolling Stone.
Well, I suppose the challenge then is this the article that I have pulled up? Is that
FAA? Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So it's from February 18th. Well, I mean, I kind of feel like we already went over the point of it may be disconcerting to many people, the points you're making. I'll give you that one. But I don't know right now what the immediate effects of that are.
Oh, no, I agree. We agree. I don't think that at this moment, things have crashed, but things will get more dangerous, right? You fire all these teams, right? There are people, and if you dig through the article, they're talking about how they've been gutted, right? There's still maybe a few of them still there, but they're doing the work of 5 people doing the work of 20. That's not what you want. And before they weren't fully staffed at first as well. And then of course, right, we have the reporting from that big meeting between Trump and his cabinet members, right? So, and Elon Musk is there, not part of the cabinet. And Elon Musk gets into it with Treasury Secretary Duffy, right? There's a bunch of reporting talking about this, but Duffy says that the DOGE team tried to fire air traffic controllers, right? Elon Musk denies that, and then he asked Duffy to name the individuals who got fired. Duffy's like, well, no one got fired because I stopped it, right? But according to him, assuming this is correct, people were in the meeting or reporting back on it. Assuming that's correct, then yes, he did try to fire air traffic controllers.
I mean, yeah, sure. Okay. Like I said, I'm a little bit critical of that as a conservative. I'm not a huge fan of when there's government overreach. I think the FAA was probably the worst thing that Trump's done so far, like how they've handled it. However, overall, when I look at DOGE, I think it's been wildly successful. I mean, just some of these stats here that the DOGE has been putting out, they put, what was it, 11 point something million loans went out to children What's going on with that?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
They didn't check the actual ages.
I'm not saying like, okay, we all know the YouTube kid that like, reviews toys and, mom and daddy probably have to run his day to day. Sure, that's fine. But why are all these loans going out to children? Like these are questions. We look at USA, right, or USAID. They're sitting here. Well, they literally told them to burn docks. I was watching a Marine the other night, and he goes, "Hey, the only time we burn docks is when the embassies are getting run over by a terrorist organization. Why are we sitting here burning docks? It's pretty clear something nasty is going on."
Wait a minute, hold on. The Trump administration is telling them to burn docks, right? Like just now. Hold on, who? Okay.
USA
who said,
head.
Yeah, USAID head for the Trump administration now.
Yeah, now because he's a leftover, right? They're burning docks, and DOGE is trying to go in there and look at
They're
them.
doing that under the Trump administration. You're saying this is a rogue employee that's burning documents?
Yeah, that's why they had to put a court order on it to stop it recently.
So you're saying that this individual is not operating under the Trump administration. They're operating like in loyalty to the Biden administration and burning documents right this second.
Yeah, I mean, you know about. I mean, you can pull it up. They're talking about it all over. It's all over the news.
I've heard about
burning the
this,
docks.
but like as far as I know, I mean, this is done under Trump. Like if they can send marshals to stop this person. If that's
right.
what
Yeah, they have a
want to
court order out right now trying
Okay,
to
let
stop
them do that.
Court asked to intervene after email tells USAID workers to destroy classified
the email?
documents. Let's see. Judge Carl Nichols set a Wednesday morning deadline for the plaintiffs and the government to brief him on the issue. A person familiar said it comes as a Trump administration. Yada, yada, yada. Let's see. Lawsuits are mounting. Okay, they don't have the... no, we don't want to donate AP. Thank you for your assistance in clearing out classified USAID headquarters. It begins. I don't think it actually has the name in it.
Yeah.
Erica Carr. There you go.
Erica
Acting
Carr.
Secretary of USAID.
Acting Secretary of USAID, a person that's. I mean, well, we can check it.
I mean, yeah, this is the bureaucracy fighting back against DOGE. I mean, are you disagreeing that there's elements of that have loyalty to other different like groups within the thing other than MAGA, like in Trump? Like, I mean, it's pretty clear like that there are different groups that have different.
Well, I'm looking up who Erica Carr is.
Yeah.
Let me ask you though, as it's being pulled up, if you were ordered. If you worked at a government institution through multiple administrations and Trump came in and said, "Prime, I want you to burn the documents, get rid of them all," would you do it?
No, I wouldn't.
You see?
Absolutely. Well, I would say this is an illegal act, right? No matter who installed it, it's an illegal act. But the claim here is that specifically it's being done to cover up like the crimes of the Biden administration. I don't believe that. I'm actually ask you for evidence that's happening under their auspices, right? No, it is a suspect, absolutely suspect, and they should be arrested or charged with a crime or whatever.
She is a Joe Biden hire.
Yeah,
Erica Carr was appointed by
doing
Biden in January of 2021.
Is she doing it on Biden's orders or anyone else's orders?
Well, we know it's not Biden's orders because they have an open investigation of the auto pills.
I don't think that has anything to do with what we're talking about.
Well, I'm not, but you're implying there's something like nefarious going on. There is, because they shouldn't be bringing the documents in the first place, right? But like that this is the deep state fighting back. So I don't know.
Those are your words, not mine.
Okay. All right. I don't know what the motivation behind this is, right? So let's investigate that.
Sure. I mean, I'm down for investigation, but isn't that what DOGE is supposed to be doing? Investigating? That's their whole job, is to investigate waste and efficiency.
So let's honest question. Erica Carr was previously worked in the Obama administration and was at the Office of Management and Budget. She was appointed by Joe Biden in 2021. She is now the acting executive secretary of USAID, and she sent an email instructing staff to shred and I believe the email said something to prepare for burn. Like I don't think
it was
they're
like
not burning in the building.
It was like keep shredding, and when the shredders get tired, like use the burn bags, right? Like it's like extremely egregious.
Okay,
and I'm not the
Here's unprecedented.
Well, here's the question. Here's the question. Let's just total honest.
Okay.
What could the possible motivation be for wanting to destroy classified documents?
I have no idea. I'm not going to guess at that.
I mean, when they're doing it to hide it from Elon coming in and trying to like clean stuff up, it's clearly nefarious.
But to be fair, there's one potential.
I mean, it's
is there any above board normal reason? I'm asking this honestly.
It's all nefarious. Again, I agree, completely nefarious, and I'm not defending that at all. I'm saying that but I'm looking at his claim. Right? Like it seems like you're claiming, and if you're not doing that, then I take back my words, right? If you're not claiming that this is like like from the Biden administration. If you're not claiming that they're acting on orders like
I don't think anybody's acting on
previous
orders from
loyalties, right? Then I take it back because I have no idea what's going on. No one
Well,
does.
I don't necessarily think it's on acting orders from the Biden administration. First of all, I have concerns about whether Biden's presidency is even legit after this autopin scandals come out. I mean, we'll have to see. But like, yeah, you don't know about the autopin thing. So basically, they found a bunch of documents recently that were all signed, and they have like when they were signed, we know for a fact he was in a different location. Some of them were the executive orders, some were pardons, and they were all signed.
Autopin is online service where you can store a signature.
Okay.
And then you click sign, and it'll automatically imprint
Okay.
the signature.
Yeah, and so now that we know that,
Is that illegal?
well.
You know what? To be honest, Obama and Trump have both done it, but I think it should be illegal.
Okay.
The issue, as he pointed out, is there are questions of the location of Biden when some of these documents were signed.
And his mental capability.
Oh.
I mean, that is a broader argument, but I think the actual legal core you'd actually get in court is, hey, Joe Biden wasn't there in the Oval Office. He was traveling when that document went out. How did he sign it through email? Like, what's going on?
Well,
I mean, that's
my bigger
But not to derail, to go back to where we were.
Well,
with
yeah.
the aircraft car.
So yeah, back to where I was going with that. So my point is with that we have Mike Johnson on file saying that Biden doesn't know what's going on. My point with this is I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, it's some sort of deep state Biden, whatever. What I'm saying is I think that Erica Carr knows they've been doing nefarious things. They know there's doing illegal things, and this is what we call covering our ass. And she's over here burning things because she doesn't want DOGE uncovering it because they're finding all sorts of fraud all over the place.
So we're going to find a little agreement here, right? And I've discussed this before, right? USAID does have actually do nefarious things for the intelligence services. It's been used to undermine various foreign countries, right? It goes in on the auspices of aid, but then it will carry out intelligence operations. We already know this. But that doesn't mean, of course, it wasn't actually doing aid in other areas, right? But they were used as a tool to do whatever, like the CIA wanted.
Well, we don't know what they're doing. That's the whole
yeah,
problem.
yeah. And so if that's what they're burning, again, I condemn it completely. You'll find no defense here. Yeah.
Well, so then you agree we need DOGE.
No, why would I agree with George? Hold on. No, did you forget the first half of this conversation?
Well, you brought up the Inspector
When I
General,
talked, when I talked about the Inspector General. Well, hold on. They were doing this because of Congress. It wasn't like CIA was a rogue agency doing this, right? These were orders by the president, hey, we want to do these operations within whatever country, right? These things were approved. This isn't actually corruption.
Which things were approved?
I mean, the operations from USAID. There is no, at least to my understanding, there's no evidence that these things were done by the CIA on the CIA's own behalf, right, without the president knowing at the time.
I do think, though, I think the average person would not conclude that multi-administration or inter-admin agencies like the CIA are acting under the direct orders of the president who is currently in office, with the example being Chuck Schumer saying that the intelligence agencies have 6 ways from Sunday from getting back to Trump if Trump tries to change what they're doing. The implication, of course, is I think this is fairly widely accepted in foreign policy. The CIA has long-term operations that span decades. So every time a president comes in, the CIA gives a briefing to the president of current operations. That suggests largely that what the CIA and the other U.S. agencies are doing, they are not at the direction of the current administration.
Okay, although that current administration can cancel those. Oh, we don't like this operation. Is it going against our current policies? Then we're just done with that.
Well,
right?
I think Trump was the first president to try to do that, and they impeached him for it.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that claim. So you'll have to show me that it was because that Trump was trying to attack the intelligence. And to be clear, I'm not defending the intelligence community, right? Absolutely not. I mean, I'm a fucking leftist.
No,
absolutely not.
My point is just that, the Ukraine Burisma scandal is a really great example of something untoward is going on, and it was a CIA agent who filed the initial paperwork to trigger the Trump impeachment. And interestingly, YouTube, the man's name was Eric Charamella, and YouTube would delete any video that said his name. Facebook would take down any post that said his name. This is a fact. Twitter was the only platform, I believe, that would allow you to actually say the man's name.
That's
so, right. And this was rooted in Joe Biden, of course, engaged in an illegal quid pro quo with the president at the time. I believe it was Poroshenko. He said, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting the $1 billion. And Donald Trump made a phone call to, at the time, I think it was Zelensky. I'm not sure. No, was it? I don't know if it was Zelensky, but he made a call and said, "What is this? What happened? I want to know what happened here." A CIA agent then blew the whistle, filing a report. The Vindmans, then I believe it was Alex Vindman, then took it up the chain. Congress got a hold of it, and they impeached Donald Trump over this for trying to stop what was a CIA operation. A CIA counterterrorism director was on the board of Burisma when Trump said, "I want to know what Biden was doing here." They impeached him.
Yeah. So
Anyway, I digress. My point was simply, my point was simply, the CIA does not act underneath the president for my entire life until Donald Trump. And only now, actually, and only to a certain degree because he's firing him.
I don't know if that's the case, right? And again, I'm not defending this is a weird space to be in because I can't really defend intelligence agencies, right? I know they do all kinds of crazy shit. It's from an outside perspective, I can't tell at what points in time is the CIA more under control or less under control or the other agencies.
Well, that's a problem.
Right? Well, yes, but that doesn't mean DOGE is going to solve it. Right? That doesn't mean
you brought up the inspector generals earlier. If they were going to solve it, they've existed. How long was the inspector general's office?
Sure. How does this solve it? Right. So let's say
we open up the books and see what they're doing.
Yeah,
that's the whole point.
We'll open up. First of all, I want an audit of all agencies, everything. Right. That I want. But we were already doing that. We already have processes to all these things. But whatever. Right. In any case,
those processes aren't working. Is the whole point? Aren't working? Is the whole point of DOGE?
Yeah. Then we can fix these processes. This is unconstitutional. But we'll get back to that in a second. Okay. All right. Hold your horses, buddy. We got time.
Sure.
But yeah. So I don't know, right? Again, from outsider's perspective, the level of power these agencies have, the intelligence agencies have at any point in time. So it's a weird space to try to be defending them. So I don't know, let's kind of move past it because we.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
My point was not to ignite a whole thing on the CIA. It was just to basically point out. I'll keep it flat. The FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and all other 14 they exist with the same leadership through multiple administrations, and that de facto means if they're going to launch an operation, it will start before Obama and extend after Obama.
And you want continuity of operations, right? You don't want them to be so it's a tough balance there, right? At some point, you want them to complete a mission once it's started, but also we want to adjust with the changing times, with the priorities, with the will of the people. So who knows, right? Yeah.
I mean, moving on, I guess, but to I guess a related thing with this. If you had told me 5 years ago that someone was going to set up an organization to cut government bloat and government waste, I would have been I'd have been hesitant because I'm, like I said, I'm a Texan. I don't trust big government. I don't want more, organizations, more, agencies. However, DOGE has come in and they immediately done what they said they were going to do. If you told me 5 years ago that, hey, there's bloat, there's these things, I don't think anybody, left or right, would have disagreed. But now that DOGE is actually uncovering the bloat and going through these things, it's up in arms because my pork belly project has been canceled.
No.
And it's not helping anybody.
No.
That's what it seems like.
DOGE is not actually uncovering the bloat. I mean, so there is a level of waste within any organization, no matter what, whether this organization, whether anything, private.
Not here. None.
Okay, all right. Maybe this guy's job. Maybe that's bloat. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
choice words for Kellen.
I'm kidding. But no, there's always a level of waste within any organization, right? What DOGE is doing, right? Are they reporting things correctly? Are they understanding how these contracts work? I think again and again we're seeing that they actually don't, right? So there's plenty of reports of the errors that DOGE has had. Reports of them overestimating contracts, of them saying that they saved on a contract that was actually canceled under Joe Biden. There's been a whole list of errors. And then we have people just fact-checking these contracts. And they're shown that, yes, there's an inflated amount of savings that DOGE is reporting.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to that, though, all right, so anytime you have a new organization come in and they go look at things, right? So, there's the story with Elon Musk and Twitter, right, where they had this server farm and they go in there and they're like, we could pull this out on Christmas. And him and two other guys go in there and pull it up and whatever. And everybody's like, oh, look how bad Twitter's doing. Well, I mentioned Kevin O'Leary earlier. He mentions that, Twitter is back to like 60, 70% the stock price of what it was originally before Elon bought it. After that, that's as of yesterday, right? Of 54, it was at $54 yesterday when it was closed. And so these added new features. The site was running smoothly after a few hiccups. So when I look at Doge, this is the exact same concept. You're going to go in, you are going to have mistakes because you are clearing things out. But then what they do is they will have the mistake and then they correct them. And y'all are sitting.
They actively have to be called out. They have to be called out and embarrassed about their corrections.
No.
But, hold on. All right. So, for instance, the agency once claimed to have canceled contracts that ended under President George W. Bush. The agency also wrongly reported cancel an $8 billion contract when it was only worth $8 million. Right? This is not, I have more examples. This is not a isolated instance with this agency. But the thing is, though, what people like you will do is that they'll talk about like the DOGE number, right? And what many news agencies report, they'll put the DOGE number. So that's like 115 billion, I think, by now. And you can take a look at the DOGE wall of receipts, right? They got a website. Oh, it's the debt clock. But you can take a look at the DOGE wall of receipts. They do have a website. And 115 billion. That is not a believable number. It's not, right? Because
why?
Because of all the errors that I'm talking about. So these are what they're reporting, but at this point, there's no reason to believe that. Now, there's others.
You're saying that the Department of Government Efficiency is not efficient at all.
Indeed, I'd say that, right? Now, there's another website, all right, that you can also take a look, called DOGE Tracker Muskwatch. I can get you the URL if you need it.
I think it.
Doge.muskwatch.com. Indeed, yeah.
Muskwatch.
Yeah, take a look, all right?
Got to watch out for President Musk,
Yeah. So this takes a look, and it looks at what's actually verified, like verified savings here, right? And it compares that to grants. Sometimes grants can't be verified, but this is actually doing the comparison. You can go down to, like, let's say, like the first USAID one, right? Like, right, that large bar, like in the lower half, right? Look at, put their cursor back on the bar, right? And there you go, right?
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so it says what DOGE
$244 million.
Yeah, the actual, the overestimated savings, right? So it shows the what DOGE says it's saved and then what's actually saved. Now, this is an interesting website that I actually just discovered.
Wait, hold on. Let's look at this website real quick. All right.
Let's do that.
So the last one. You go back to the last website if you don't mind real quick. All right. So this says $115, $714.
You want to talk? You're missing the mic.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
All right. So can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. So it says 115 billion saved, 714.29 per taxpayer. Let's go to this other site here. Back to the one that we were just on, if you don't mind. All right. So on this one, what's crazy to me is when we look at these things, right? We have at the bottom, you had the 254 million that was like not verified, is what you just said, I guess, when you had pulled up. And we have verified cancel 8.6 and 29.9. What's interesting to me is when Dems talk about taxing people, right? They're like, oh, we got to tax the billionaires. These are the ones we got. This is terrible. But when DOGE makes these kind of cuts that actually save taxpayers hundreds of dollars every year, now we sit here and scream, "Ree!"
Okay, but it doesn't actually do it. So
what do you mean it doesn't?
So I'm going to ignore. You don't know what you're saying.
What do you mean?
Right?
If you're canceled funding, that's taxpayer dollars being saved. Is that correct? Yes or no?
I'm sorry. Repeat that, please.
So if this is your website's correct, right? Mm-hmm. These are the cuts you admit they've done.
Yeah.
All right. That means that's money that's been saved by the taxpayer that's being spent can be spent more efficiently. Correct?
Hold on. It depends, right? Like, were those things that should have been canceled? Right? We haven't actually established that. We're just assuming that DOGE knows what should and shouldn't be canceled. Now, there could be things that you and I agree with, right? I'm sure we can find common ground on contracts.
But you agree, even if they're not something that should be canceled, it would still, in theory, save us money. Correct?
And
I don't care about just saving us money, right? I'm not a conservative. It doesn't matter to me that we simply save money. I want to use that money for like important purposes to actually run the government. Sorry.
I just want to make sure this is clear. It's not necessarily a correction, but when we highlighted USAID cuts showing 244 million, that's actually just one component. That's
one component.
Yeah, that's an O&M. Right. So I just want to make sure everyone understands. Yeah. There's actually a bigger list of all the different USAID cuts. Here's another for 70 million. Here's another for 12 million. And I'm sorry. It's what overstated savings. Oh, okay. So they're saying terminated funding is 351 million. Not wait. What? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Let me clarify. Mm-hmm. DOGE is claiming 595 million. they can verify 351 million was terminated. The overestimate was 244. So I read that wrong. Yeah. So the first number on this Musk tracker says, for USAID, O&M follow-on contract was 350 million saved. Just for example, there are a bunch of other USAID contract cuts. This one, for instance, was 12 million. Another was 70, and another was 9.8.
This is pulling from government databases, right? There's the DOGE website, the wall of receipts, right? And on that website, for each of these kinds of contracts, it sends you to what's called the Federal Procurement Data System, right? The FPDS. If you click on one of those, right, you'll have no idea what you're looking at. It's not something designed for like regular like individuals. Like click on the savings part or something. I don't know.
Which one?
Well, why does it matter if it's not designed for regular individuals?
Well, no,
somebody understands.
No, it actually does matter. No, because the point is, people are saying that this has been the epitome of transparency. But actually, if like regular individuals can just look at this and think, I guess this is savings, I guess this works out, right? But they actually can't tell.
Have you met the average person though? They can't tell. They can't tie their shoes. I mean,
but real quick, additionally, we should point out that verified canceled funding and DOGE claimed funding, neither are falsifiable. The DOGE tracker is saying, here's what we looked at what Elon said. We know this was canceled. That doesn't mean Elon is wrong, lying, or the numbers are not correct.
Okay.
Amen.
Well, you'll see what I'm saying. So click on that, the USAID contract you were looking at before, right? Click on the bar itself. Yeah. And click the link. So you see the FBDS, right? There's that. That's what you'll find on DOGE, right? You'll take a look at this. This is like fucking inscrutable. But also, there's the USA spending website. So if you look at that, right? If you go back to the other one, right? So
hold on.
Go ahead, take a look.
So this is what the DOGE tracker actually linked.
Yeah.
It says that the DOGE estimated savings is 595 million, but that's actually only 351 million, and it's claiming 244 is overstated. But when you actually click the link they provide, it says the base and all options value is 596 million.
And exactly, yeah. So if we go to the USA spending, the other link there, all right?
Click for links. I did.
I mean, just while y'all are doing this,
yeah, there you go.
Do you agree that
this is a much more
No. This is important.
Yeah, this is a much more readable version. So exactly what you're talking about before. There's the other options, right? Those options aren't exercise options.
Well,
so
that says potential award map.
Yeah, that's what's actually been, because you have to actually learn to read this. I spent the time to actually learn to read this thing, right? So the current award amount, that's the amount that's already been
verified.
Spent. Yeah, right. Yeah, the 556, that's options.
What they were going to get.
If they exercise those options.
And they were going to.
Were they? Do you know that? So you can have an extension. So you can sign a contract.
Wait, hold on, come on.
You can sign a contract, right? And then you can say, hey, I'm going to extend that contract. Have the options, right? To extend that options multiple times. And I'll get additional money for that. But if you don't extend those options, right, because they might not need the money.
Are you joking? I got to be honest. I kind of feel like you tried pulling a fast one.
I didn't try pulling a fast one. Hold on. I'm literally walking you through the website. I'm not pulling a fast one.
They have an option to pull out. I do understand what you're saying, but the idea that an organization that has offered up an additional $250 million would be like, you know what? We decided we don't want it. We're not going to take it.
Never happened in history.
Yeah, it never happened.
That absolutely happens all the time.
What? You do know that they sell $500 hammers to the Pentagon. This was a big scandal.
Yeah, $13,000.
I am perfectly aware of that. I'm aware the Pentagon doesn't pass audits, right? I'm aware that we.
So the Marines do?
Yeah, the Marines passed an audit. That's crazy.
Yeah, I am aware that the Pentagon gets overcharged all the time, right? And other agencies actually get examined and run in a different manner, right? Like the Social Security Administration doesn't have the same amount of waste and bloat as the Pentagon. We can understand these things are treated differently.
Social Security is bloat, but go ahead.
It's not all bloat. I mean, obviously, like this is important. This is a useful.
Hold on, you realize I can't let this one go. Just you know what the Social Security. If I invested my tax dollars that I spent that would go towards Social Security, the same amount exactly in the S&P like fund or a mutual fund, my return would be drastically higher. You understand that, right? Than like what you're getting. So basically, Social Security is boning the average American out of their money. You're like.
People don't save that way. We have to actually design a system for people. People, I wish people.
Wait, why is that our problem? Like,
Why is that a problem?
This is
Because
the
I
disconnect
care about a
between-
fellow man and woman. That's why.
So
it's
do
our
I.
problem.
But
that's what I'm doing.
This is the difference between, I guess, you and me on this, right? We voted for DOGE to come in and clear this stuff out, right? We see these things as wasteful. We see these times. Like, I can't tell you how many times I know people that are working 3 jobs that are going, why am I getting taxed so much? And it's going to pay people that are just, living off the teat of society. And DOGE is part of the answer to that. They're going in and clearing stuff out. And even by your numbers, right? Let's just take your numbers at the 351 million mark. That's a ton of money.
Well, hold on. This is interesting. I'm trying to figure out what these phrases actually mean.
There's a glossary that you can check out, right?
So, okay, we'll do that. But just let me ask your perspective on this. Current award amount, that means they did give 352 to this organization. Wouldn't that then mean that there is still yet to be paid 250 million?
Not only if they exercise those.
We don't know the terms of the contract, so you can't make that assumption.
Yeah, and
if
they
it
can't
says,
make the assumption either.
If they said that, if they say currently we have given 350 million to them, the argument would be we didn't actually save 350 million. It's inverted. The Musk tracker has it backwards. Elon Musk saved us $250 million because they've already given 350 million to this organization.
But I'm saying those options haven't been exercised.
That's the savings. So here's the issue.
We don't. Yeah.
Right. So let's put it this way: if an organization, let's just round these numbers up so we can get simple. We'll make it simple. USAID, screw it. Let's just say government organization gives $600 million contract to be paid out. Elon Musk says terminate that contract. They say, okay, we've already given them $350 million. You can't save money that's already given away. However, the remaining 250 that is yet to be dispersed when the contract is canceled, that 250 stays in the account. If that is correct, it appears, then the number is overstated because Elon is including in the savings money they already gave away.
Yes.
My point is this. The DOGE tracker has the number backwards. When it says terminated funding 351 and the overstated savings is 244, that's incorrect. It's...
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Right. So the actual savings is the money we did not give.
I see what you're saying.
The money we already gave is gone.
Yeah. Fair enough. No, I got you.
If that's what it means, otherwise I'm trying to understand, like,
I see what you're saying.
What are they saying here?
Yeah.
Unless it...
Fair enough.
Unless it means the current award amount is the government saying, we will, over the next 10 years, give you $352 million, and then potentially we could give you more, if that's what it means.
Yeah.
So here's what it says. I looked it up. The current award, okay. So your website does have it backwards. It's actually worse. This is a point for you. You should do this. The current award represents the amount that has already been awarded to a recipient. It includes obligated funds, meaning the government has committed to paying this amount under an existing contract or grant. Okay. So it doesn't mean they already gave it. Potential award represents the maximal possible funding that could be awarded over the life of the contract or grant. It includes both the current award amount and any future options, modifications, or extensions that may be exercised. So they did not give the $350 million. The problem then becomes, how much did they give? Did they give $921,000?
Obligated is what they paid. So
okay.
Yeah.
So then I think this is arguing semantics. Elon's going to cite the higher number.
I have a specific example.
No. One second. Just clear. Obligated is what's promised, and then outlay, I think, is actually what's been paid. Hopefully, I'm not get that back. I'm just learning this literally last night. But you look through the glossary, and it'll tell you which one's which. So I don't want to give false information, but go ahead.
So yeah, I know I brought this up with you the other day. In San Antonio, we're having exactly the situation you just described, Mr. Poole. In San Antonio, they just shut down a migrant facility, right? It's an overflow facility that's been used twice for like 3 months total, I think, whatever. And it was costing us $15 million a year, and they canceled the contract, right? So it's potential loss or whatever. It was $15 million a year. I think it's 200. So it equals out 215 million total a year, or something around that, and then it equals about 1.1 billion since 2001. And this nonprofit's posting record profits and all sorts of crazy stuff. And so it's gotten bipartisan support locally because it's barely been used and whatnot. And so basically they canceled the contract, and I guess that's potential savings. That fits exactly the criteria you're describing in this kind of case, is where they're going in there cleaning out bloat. Like, this facility isn't being used. Why would we keep funding it?
So when Tim's ready, hopefully, sorry, go ahead.
I think our original assessment of what this was correct. They have not yet okay, so awarded means we signed a deal. So, you say to me, if you give me $1 million, I will write a beautiful poem for you.
Yeah.
And then I say, okay, but I want more than one. And you say, then we'll do this. After the first year, we'll include an option for me to make another poem for you for another $1 million, and then another year we'll do this again. The question is, who has the option rights is the important thing. If the recipient of the funds says, we want the option, that means that money is basically committed. If the U.S. government says, we want the option, which tends to be more likely, in most contract deals, the person paying will say, we want to retain the option to re-up or cancel, as opposed to the person doing the work. So it would seem that the thing about this is obviously Elon's going to stress we saved all of the potential money. But if it was an option held by the government, then I suppose it's semantics. It really is semantics.
I don't know that it is semantics, though, right? So, like, I just brought up that facility, right? So that's $215 million a year, right? It's been used, what, like 6 months since 2001 or 2021, right? It's since 2021. That's $1 billion, right? Okay, let's just take 6 months out of that, or like 8 months. I don't care. We can take a year out.
Tim, if you could pull up Endeavor's San Antonio, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, so that's like 7. Let's just say they take out a full.
What specifically about it?
It's basically they're spending $15 million a month to keep a cold facility open, and they're saying that's what it costs to open this, like bring it back at any given time. We have to have $15 million a month, whatever. So they shut it down. So that's $215 million a year. Let's just say they had it open, they used it for a full year, which they didn't. But let's just say for
you're talking about the facility that's $18 million per month.
Yeah, $18 million a month. That one, yes. So sorry, I thought so. 15 should be 18. This one, exactly. This one,
right? It was reportedly shut down because of inhumane conditions or something to that effect.
But no, because it wasn't being used.
No, it was shut down because it wasn't being used.
There were numerous. The reason it wasn't being used was because I don't know. This is what I'll look it up. But apparently,
I haven't heard anything about that. I'm local, but I will say
the conditions were considered to be.
Well, that makes it even worse. But right. I mean, but without even factoring that in, right? Let's just say for it wasn't subpar, and let's just say it was used as it was supposed to be for 1 year, right? Full year, 215. It's like $215 million for a year, right? That's a lot of money to the average taxpayer. And when you save that that's $1 billion in 3 years. Like you act like $1 billion in 3 years.
Hold on.
For one closing isn't a massive amount.
No. We can't judge these in the sense of an individual's like pocketbook. Yes, all this.
Absolutely.
No, we actually can't, because in all the numbers when we're talking about government are massive. To fund anything, it's a massive amount, right? So that in itself doesn't tell us whether something is worth spending on or not, right? Whether you should cut it or not, right? We actually have to judge these on the utility that's being processed.
Sure, and this is a prime example of waste.
So I don't know. So I'd like to. No, it's not a prime example. So. Tim, I haven't heard about the inhumane.
Let me fact check that. I could be wrong.
I'm not sure about that.
So I'll wait for that kind of evidence.
I think
However,
that one was the one at Eagle Pass.
Okay, no, we got it. I got it.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since March of 2024, HHS has paid $18 million per month to keep the facility in Pecos, Texas, used for housing unaccompanied migrant children. That was previously at the center of reports of poor conditions. That's what they said.
Okay. Well, so
I don't know if that's the reason why they stopped using it.
So
okay, well, hold on. Look at that the sentence before. As a result, this is the big controversy, right? As a result, Family Endeavor's cash portfolio of investments grew from $8.3 million in 2020 to $520 million in 2023.
So what? Yeah,
that is sus.
Yeah, it's not at all. That's not at all sus. They got money from a contract. That's not all sus. Why would that be sus?
Well, one, they shut it down for
nobody's using it.
No, hold on. We understand. I know, Tim. You understand migration flows, right? Migration flows aren't constant. So there are some times, and we've seen this, right? When migration has skyrocketed, right? And
because they were bringing them in.
Okay, whatever. I love you, Gibbs. So it's skyrocketed, right? And we've had a ton of facilities filled up to the brim, right? To the point, and you might remember this, Tim, when there was within Texas, right? We were housing migrants under a bridge. Because exactly. Yeah, it was entirely too much. And so we didn't have enough facilities. So what this is doing, right? So yes, this was an empty facility, but we understand that we don't know when those migration flows are going up. They were being paid to keep that facility open, right? So when it does go up, we have a place to put the kids. And if you want to complain, right, about the bad treatment of migrants, I agree, right? We treated them far worse than I think anything this facility has probably done.
I don't want to.
No, we remember the reports, right? We remember the reports of what happened to those migrants. We remember the sexual abuse. We remember the freaking guy who was not castrating them, but he was like sterilizing women, right? There was a doctor who was sterilizing women who were trapped in the immigration jails before. We understand, yes, the federal government treats people badly, but specifically talking about this contract is actually useful because we want to hold that space.
I don't want to dive too much into immigration because that's not.
No, but you brought this up.
I will.
Immigration's effectively zero now, right?
Well, that's where I was going to go with that. Is we have had a record number of catches, right, on the border. They're having record numbers of not gotaways, right? Because one, Abbott went down there and built the wall, and two, Trump has backed them up, and it's proof that this is how it relates to DOGE it's proof that the government could have stepped in and done these things if they had wanted to, right? And so then when we see this facility, this is clearly a fleece because they could have shut down the immigration because Trump's done it, and then we could have shut it down, and then
that's
and then
bullshit.
we hold on.
Do we have a caravan coming? Do we have a caravan coming right now?
Not anymore because the wall's up.
Because the wall is up. The wall hasn't changed. What are you talking about? Hold on. Did Trump suddenly build a massive amount of wall in the time since? Oh, okay. So but. Even when that was happening, we saw massive amounts of people trying to.
And we also saw in the areas where the wall was built in locations like Eagle Pass, it went from 1,500 a day to 3 in a week.
Yeah. So your point is, yes.
So what I'm saying is we can stop it, and then we do stop it, and then we have these facilities.
All you're saying that migrants can't become intangible, right? They're not X-Men. They're not Kitty Pryde, right? They're not untangible. And so when they find a wall, right, they try to go around that wall. Or they try to look for.
Well, then how has it been stopped completely then? Because we do have people coming up here. Like I don't understand what your argument is here. It's like not a good one.
It hasn't been stopped completely. I'm saying that if there's another. I keep hitting the mic. I apologize. If there's another crisis that happens, right, like within some Central or South American country, right,
there's always a crisis. There's a crisis right now.
Hold on. But
Venezuela.
Oh my God, dude! Like migration comes in waves. We know this, right? It comes in different ways. Under each administration, right? Under the Obama administration, the Trump administration, the Biden administration, and then again during the Trump administration, there's going to be another surge. It happens all the time. And when that happens, the question is, what do we do about them? Do we actually prepare, right? Do we understand context? Do we understand history? It's like, last time this happened, this was a huge problem. We didn't have any place to put these goddamn kids, right? So, can we have a place available at that time? It's actually a tiny amount of money.
Well, two things to this objection, real quick. One, we've stopped it. It's proven we can stop it.
Hold on. What does we've stopped it mean, though?
Texas government and then on top of that,
there are other places to go in.
What Trump has done nationwide, we've seen record numbers of catches nationwide. We proved he could stop it. Two,
that doesn't stop people from coming.
I didn't even factor in what Mr. Poole here brought up about the inhumane things. But if it was inhumane, that's definitely one that should be shut down.
All our prisoners as humanity.
Why are we gonna have a facility that we clearly didn't need because we could have stopped it from the get-go? Then when we get there, it's not even used. How can you justify $18 million a month to bring something from cold to whatever? Y'all bring up, we don't know. Sure. What I do know is I know how businesses work, right?
And
when I look at a business, but
this is a government.
No, in family endeavors, right? Whenever I look at a business and they're charging $18 million a month to keep a facility open because they got to keep it from cold storage. All right, what do you have to do? Okay, maybe you have to replace medicine. Okay, how much can that cost? Let's just say it costs $1 million to replace medicine.
It's not just the medicine.
Let's say how many employees are you paying that are you doing this? Let's say another $3 million for all these employees. There's no way you could justify $18 million a month. It's a fleece. It's corruption.
Also, there's the potential. Okay, look, I'm not going to necessarily go through and defend a contract that I don't know the exact details of, right? But there's also the potential of that space, right? So not only are they
potential,
because if they weren't using,
we spending money on the potential.
If they weren't, actually, no. Of course you are. Of course you are. Why wouldn't a business charge for that, right? Right? If Tim,
insanity.
Sure. If Tim is told that someone wants to use his studio, right? But they're not sure when. But they are going to use it at some point in time, right? And Tim's like, okay, well, I guess I'll let you use the studio, but like I could be using this to do work. I could be using this to make money, right? So what I'm going to charge you for this is the price of like the studio maintenance of itself and what I might be able to make, right? Like a nominal rate for what I might be able to make otherwise. Otherwise, he's losing money because he doesn't know when that contract is actually going to come in. Obviously, you know business. Right, you know business, so you know this.
Yeah, but
right?
they're overcharging.
Right.
I
respect the point you're making.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try and give a analogy. If I were to rent out my studio,
Mm-hmm.
we've got personnel who have to be on site to run and fix the cameras. So if someone said, we don't know exactly when, but we're going to need to use that studio. And I say, okay, well, when is when? I mean, what do you want from us? Just keep it open. Well, if you want me to keep it open, we need facilities maintenance. That means somebody to check the plumbing. And you got to be there every day, and they have to have a clipboard where they go to every single room and write down, is the water working, are the pipes frozen, whatever might happen. We have to check the cameras every single day, because if you want to be able to use it on a dime, on a moment's notice, we have to check the cameras and do all that every single day. We're going to have a minimal skeleton crew who's there. For a larger facility, it's probably going to be 2 people. So for this facility, we need at least 2 people, 1 person in the studio at all times, 1 person walking the grounds. People will steal things. And you're going to have to pay us every single month to maintain that. I think the bigger issue is this is interconnected to clearly the Biden administration was allowing illegal immigration and then offering up facilities money to operate.
That's absolutely what.
But I'm not arguing an opinion. I'm saying they did allow this. Biden is quoted as saying surge the border.
Hold on.
He said that.
He told the immigrants to surge
That's a
the
direct
border.
quote.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah. First of all, I love this, the context of that quote. But Kamala Harris, like, literally went out. The
borders are.
The borders are. I don't want to even defend Kamala Harris. To be clear, I'm not a fan of the Joe Biden administration, right? But in any case, right, Kamala Harris actually went to Central America and talked about, hey, don't come. You remember this, right?
Sure.
The don't come moment. Yeah.
CNN reports from Andrew Kaczynski, Joe Biden promised to absorb 2 million asylum seekers in a heartbeat. In 2019, he now faces an immigration crisis. So the issue is bigger than just, I think it's a fair argument that if the U.S. government wants to maintain a facility, you got to pay to keep it open.
Sure.
The question is, why were they paying to keep a facility open? They could have just said, we're not letting people in. And if they knew that they were facing an immigration crisis and shutting the border down, they could have shut those facilities down.
International treaties, right, to say that, like, if a person presents themselves at a border, right, or even not at the border, at to government officials, like, we have to process them. That's international. That's actually part of the law. It's not like you just shut it down.
I don't know that that's true.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you're talking about the asylum treaty. One, that's a whole different thing. But like on top of that, like I'm also
that's not a whole different thing. That's part of this, right?
Like,
If
people are
coming
claiming asylum.
They're claiming asylum. Yes, actually, we have to process them. We're legally obligated to process those people.
Yeah, we're not obligated to process them here. We could process them at the embassies. We could process them there. And on top of that, people are claiming asylum because of gang violence. Like, I'm sorry, that's not a real reason for asylum.
So they're prohibited from being under the Refugee Act of 1980 and the 1951 UN Refugee Convention. They are prohibited from being returned to their home countries. They must be processed. However, there is no requirement that they enter the United States.
Yeah, well, that's crazy.
You can process them anywhere, sure, right? But that doesn't. But some of them will end up being processed here, and also there's the immigration doesn't happen like straight through the border, right? Because we get immigration from all kinds of sources. Sure. But the point is that we are supposed to process them somewhere, right? And I want them to do it humanely. You bringing up the humane point. The U.S. doesn't treat any of its goddamn prisoners humanely, right? Our citizen prisoners, we don't treat humanely. That's something that we should change. I'm curious, will DOGE deal with that? But that's a larger issue, right? That doesn't go to say that any individual contract dealing with these things is necessarily a problem. But we can.
There's something called the Safe Third Country Agreement. Individuals are not required in the United States to apply for asylum in the first safe country they arrive in. However, they can be denied, found ineligible if they do pass through safe countries without seeking protection.
Yeah, so the administration identifies quote unquote safe countries that they can So if you're coming up,
there's no safe countries in all of Central America.
I'm not. Hold on.
I mean, to be honest.
I mean,
relative.
No.
Mexico's pretty good, but that's still North America.
Well, even then, Mexico, right? The migrants like staying in.
I guess anything Central America is technically.
Oh my God,
I love Mexico.
Okay, well, I'm sure you would love Mexico, right? A man of money, right? Who can afford.
Bro, hold on there.
My dad's illegal.
Oh, I'm
from
sorry.
Mexico,
Have you been to
originally.
Mexico? You do not need to be a man of money. People go to Mexico specifically because the medical care is cheaper.
It's great.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
That's why I love Mexico.
Fine. You went to Mexico because the
Medical treatment.
Really? Oh.
Because you
pretty
can
good
get
doctors.
medical treatment that's not legal in the United States, and it's like a tenth of the cost.
Okay.
So family members of mine get all their dental work done in Mexico. Not only is it like a tenth of the cost, but they have advanced technology. They do blood platelet treatment. I don't know what it's called. After you get dental work done, they take some of your plasma, they spin it in a centrifuge, take the concentrated platelets, and inject it at the site to increase healing. Bro, Mexico is awesome. And they have Buffalo Wild Wings.
Also, on that note,
Okay, well, then shout out to
real quick,
Mexico.
I will say Mexico. They
Yes.
also have like drive-through pharmacies, which are pretty cool. Like you can go in there and tell them what you want. So if you wanted to get the gear or whatever is
God.
legal there,
Okay.
you get a prescription.
Bro, Mexico is, you can get really, really incredible food. Like, I got to tell you, man, the reason why people go to Tijuana and Cancun and places is because you can live well for very little money. Like, you can get,
Tulum, same thing.
it's amazing.
My point is that your situation is different. You want, when you're in Mexico, right? I'm assuming you're not desperate for housing. I'm assuming you're not on the streets. People coming, migrants coming through to Mexico get abused all the time, right?
But that's not our problem.
It's true, though. He's right.
Yeah, they get
abused.
Yeah, they
But
get
it's
abused.
not our problem.
They
Like,
got-
I hate to
they
sound
got-
like a dick. Like it's
Yeah,
like
I know.
America.
Gibbs.
has its own
I
problems.
get it. No, Gibbs. I know you don't actually give a damn about anyone else, right?
Sure.
But for the rest of us, right? For the people who actually have humanity, we actually do care about these people, right?
I disagree with it. I think you're evil.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
But I'm not trying to be mean or rude or whatever. I think that there is a banality of evil in let us entice people to travel from, say, Africa to Brazil, up through some of the most dangerous parts of the world. What's that corridor in Panama that's considered one of the most dangerous places in the world? We have children, young girls being raped mercilessly because people like you are saying, please, you can make it. Come. And then what happens?
No.
They end up
I
sleeping
brought that up
no,
before.
No,
no.
they end up sleeping under bridges. They end up getting sold into sex trafficking. This is Dr. Phil reported this on The View.
I mean,
How about we say, you will not be granted anything from us. Stop trying to make this perilous journey.
Sure.
And we
Okay, hold
enable
on.
coyotes, which is
That's
a
an
problem as
option,
well.
Tim. That's an option, right? Or we could do the thing that I'm actually in favor of, right? And have more legal migration, right? These people want to come here. Let's have more open legal paths. I am not in favor of undocumented immigration, right? It's a problem on all levels. The humanitarian level, right? Just as you've laid out, but also logistically, in terms of cost, right? Like there's a certain level of burden that happens when you're dealing with undocumented
Well, let me
immigrants.
just ask this time.
No, don't add yet. 1 second, okay? I love you, Gibbs, right?
Go ahead. Yeah, no, fine.
Gibbs and I know each other, in case the audience doesn't know. Gibbs and I know each other. But in any case...
But they're not friends.
not while we're working.
Yeah, amen.
But in any case, but no, we should actually have legalized immigration, right? We want people to be documented.
Explain. Like, do you have a view of the structure of the immigration you'd want to see?
I would rather. I'm not going to go exactly because I'm not an immigration lawyer, so I'm going to be clear, right? But in any of the various paths that we use, because there's like all kinds of paths that you can go with, right?
Like 01.
Increase the numbers, right? Like if there is quotas, if there is barriers of entry for like people coming here to work, right? Let's lower those barriers.
I agree with you on all that. Like, well, I want a secure border, but I also want work. Like, one of my best friends is a former illegal alien. He's legal now. This man's living the American dream. He works 3 minimum. This is also why I'm against welfare, right? This man works 3 minimum wage jobs. He just bought his first home. He just bought a Porsche, and he's getting married to like a large American woman. And he's like, "Oh, Gibbsy, I've made the American dream. I'm going to have kids and all these things." And I'm like, "This guy, what is your excuse when you're working? He's working 3 jobs. He's a legal immigrant. I want more of these people that want to come work, and
a lot
less of the people living off the welfare.
A lot
like
of
this
them,
guy's sitting here. Like, you're going to work 60, 80 hours a week, and you're going to make it. You can do that doing anything.
They're not living off the welfare. These
There
are
are absolutely people living off the welfare.
Oh, no,
That's
sorry,
why
hold on.
we've got all these things.
There's always going to be some level of people using government help, right? Sorry, right? There's going to be some level of people, including our own citizens, using government help. But the point is, like, if what you're talking about, and okay.
But why can this guy do it and
if-
millions of Americans can't? Like, I'm
Hold on,
absolutely for
hold on,
legal
no,
immigration.
Stop moving the goalposts.
I'm not moving the goalposts.
You've actually moved
Wait,
it.
it's the same
We're talking,
goalpost.
hold on. We can. No, it's not. So what we're talking about is people like getting in, the process of getting in, and do we want like what that process should look like? And now I can agree with you that we should have a quote unquote secure border, right? Because like I just said, I'm not for undocumented immigration, right? I want people to come the proper way, and if that comes along with a stronger border fence, like whatever, fine, right? Because I don't want people to make that dangerous journey, right? I want them to be able to come in here in a legalized manner, of course, right? And so in that case, maybe we can find common ground, right? We want them to come here and then to be able to work, right? We want to lower the barriers because I
mean, paleocons
know a lot of
there's a lot of Republicans that will agree with that.
Great,
sentiment.
Tim,
But, like,
do you agree?
With
Sorry, like having more legalized immigration, right? In terms of people here coming to work to be productive, of course, right?
short answer, no. Long answer is it's not. The simple question of do we want an easier path? There's way too many factors in the labor market to say more or less. So it's overly simplistic to say, let's make it easier for people to immigrate here. Oh, hold on. What's the unemployment rate? This is an important question. When we determine whether or not we're going to make immigration easier or harder, we have to check our current economic factors. There are certain times where we may want more. There's certain times where we may want less. Okay. And there's a whole bunch of different types of visas. So the one thing we don't want, the one thing we do want to happen right now is all illegal immigrants got to go. All illegal immigrants got to go.
Why?
So Donald Trump in his first term had a raid on numerous food processing plants in the South. I think it was something like ICE raids led to 700 or 800 deportations. The collective narrative from the corporate press and prominent Democrats was these are jobs Americans don't want.
Oh,
literally within a day, there were lines out the door of people trying to get these jobs. And when they interviewed people, one guy said it pays more money than where I worked at a gas station.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
So the issue is, first, legal immigration is fantastic, and I'm a big fan. And I think, as Trump said, we want everybody in the world to come here, but they got to do it legally. So the response we get typically from Democrats is, so we should make it easier. But that still doesn't address we need to make sure we have the appropriate unemployment number. Many people don't understand this. I learned this only in the past few years. We want unemployment to be around 3 and 4%, and it's currently just around 4. It could be lower. The reason why is no unemployment means there's literally no flexibility in the job market. It means that a company who's looking to fill a position can't find someone to fill it because literally everybody has a job. So there's a degree of unemployment that actually is not a bad thing. If unemployment is high, no immigration. If unemployment is low, then we need immigration.
So it sounds like you're saying is that you're looking for a dynamic system, right? That actually adjusts to current conditions, right? If there is slack within the labor market that's not being filled by Americans, you'd say, let's maybe increase the amount of immigrants coming in, right? If there's not slack, then we put a pause on it. Does that sound fair? Like a fair assessment of your argument?
To simplify a dynamic system that fluctuates year over year, I think that's what we do.
I want to talk a little bit about what you just brought up with the ag workers and whatnot, because I directly work in ag, right? And my family has worked with immigrants their entire lives with in regards to ranching. I have some of my fondest memories are like, getting fresh tortillas from, in fact, still my favorite food today, tortillas with butter on them, right? Like that's like what I like some of the immigrants.
Gibbs is a Mexican.
Have you ever had a tortilla right off the press from a family Mexican restaurant?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Magic.
I mean, I make masa myself, so I'm a big fan. But when we're sitting here and we're talking about these things, like it's y'all, the Democrats, not you, Prime, but the Democrats as a party as a general are arguing for what amounts to modern day slavery, right? They're arguing, all these costs are going to go up with agriculture if we replace these immigrants, right? Well, that's fine because the free market's going to fill it with American workers or legal immigrant workers because that's who should be getting the job. Some prices might go up, but wages will go up. Instead, what we're doing is we're having illegal immigrants here working in ag, and we're underpaying the living shit out of them, and they're driving the cost down for everybody, and that's hurting mom and pop ranchers way more than anything else.
Agree. We should have these people documented and then paying them a proper wage, so they're not like undermining American workers. I agree. We should have more legal immigration. Now, Tim, I don't know about this particular situation that you're talking about. I'm gonna take your word for it, right? In terms of this, was it a factory or whatever, this processing plant?
It was a big story like 5-6 years ago.
I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar, but like what I have seen is testimonials on the other side of like farm workers or whatever, farm owners saying the opposite, that they don't have people to fill in these.
I'll give you a simple one.
Okay.
I don't care, Margaret. If a farm worker says we can't convince Americans to do the jobs, then you need to find a way to do it. That's called the market. I'm a big fan of Trump's tariffs, and I'm a big fan of companies having to pay a living wage. So this argument of nobody wants to do this job.
Pay more.
Here's a question for you. Would you go and pick grapes in Virginia? They got a lot of wineries. Would you do that for $7 an hour?
No.
But an illegal immigrant would. Would you do it for $12 an hour?
No.
Would you do it for 20?
Probably not. There's a number. Obviously, there's a number.
50?
Yeah, 50, sure.
$50 an hour, you take the job.
Broke as shit.
Hey, guess what? The problem we have is these people who are going, I can't convince anybody to do it. What they're really telling you is, I want to exploit poor people who will go on perilous journeys and work illegally under the
I
table.
hear you. Come on. We agree.
Monsanto.
We keep saying we agree, right?
Yeah.
If we're saying that we want more legal immigration, or sorry, you're not saying that. You're not quite saying that, right? But I'm saying, at least, I want these people who are working here to be documented, to be legalized. And then that's the
I agree
path
with that
forward.
too.
Okay. All right.
But I think the reason why I didn't say yes or no to the should we increase or decrease is it really depends on the current levels of unemployment. And the other concern is the cultural concern. So when you, and look, it's weird that this is even debated, but when you have a large influx of migrants, you see this in every single country, you get cultural displacement, which leads to conflict. And that is not a good thing.
Oh boy! All right,
I mean, that's a fact. I mean,
We've been lucky here in North America with our immigration, where it's very, very similar. Like, we haven't had as much of that problem. Like, this, maybe it's because we have the Spanish. We have the Spanish who used to own Mexico and all this, and the culture is similar. We've been lucky with it in regards to that. Our cultures are fairly similar compared to, say, Europe, where they're having like vastly different cultures move in. I don't think it's the same problem, except on a mass scale.
But I'll give you a specific example because I went to Sweden, and this was like a big thing that I did. In the 90s, Sweden brought in a bunch of refugees from Somalia. They did not have proper placement plans. They literally just said, have fun, figuratively. And what ended up happening was, well, what does a refugee, migrant, or otherwise do? They would prefer to live near people like themselves. This is true for any human anywhere.
Yeah.
You can see it in places like Chicago, for instance.
Chinatown.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what ends up happening is the children of these Somali refugees were born in Sweden. They do not know Somalia. If they go and visit Somalia, they're called Swedes, and they have a weird accent. In Sweden, they're called migrants, despite being born there. And so they end up creating enclaves where the culture is dramatically different. And Swedish people consider the things they do to be criminal, but the police can't go and enforce it because you've got a dense population of tens of thousands of individuals. I'll give you an example. In the United States.
Too,
you're shaking your head no, but in the United States we have a female genital mutilation problem in Michigan because of the large Muslim population that comes. To them, it is culturally normal to engage in female circumcision. In the United States, we call that mutilation.
Sure, yes, and they have to follow the laws of the United States.
But they don't.
Yeah, but then,
in Jordan,
then they should be arrested.
The Palestinian refugees created a civil war almost overtook the government.
Then they should be arrested.
So you are saying that state police in Michigan should go into Dearborn and start arresting these groups that are practicing these traditions?
If an individual does female genital mutilation, yes, they should arrest an individual, not go in and simply arrest large groups of people on suspicion that they've done female genital mutilation.
Do you disagree that large migrants can cause unrest, though, like as a concept? Jordan had a civil war over this.
Hold on. Let's I want to recenter, right? Because I don't know. I honestly actually don't know how long the show is, and we have to go an hour.
Sure.
Okay, so we came here to talk about
real quick. My point was cultural displacement. So one of the concerns we have on the right is if you have 100 people who like baseball and every year they vote to allocate tax funds to a baseball game, and you bring in 101 people who play cricket, when it comes to a vote, cricket is going to win, and the people who are from there get angry and it leads to conflict.
Yeah, so within our own country, right, there are people who like baseball and there are people who like basketball, right? Let's say some people who like basketball from New York, and they come to Florida where people like baseball. And then from there, you can say there's cultural displacement. Yeah, that happens when we have migrant flows, right? And all of a sudden we have a conflict. That happens with internalized movement, and it happens with externalized movement. That's understand. That's what happens when new people get come in contact with each other. But that's okay. That's the thing that can happen. And the U.S. is actually uniquely capable of doing this, right? We have been taking immigrants, a country of immigrants, we've been taking immigrants from the very beginning. We're actually very good with onboarding immigrants compared to a lot of those European countries. But in any case, right, I actually do want to pull it back because
I'll pull it back.
Sure. Yeah, again, agreed. I don't know what you.
What is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Unconstitutional genital. Okay,
U.S. law banning female genital mutilation declared unconstitutional.
that's insanity.
Then I.
Is this from 7
Well,
years
then
ago?
I disagree.
6 years ago.
Sure. I disagree with that.
Federal
court ruling.
judge in Detroit. See, here's the issue.
I don't care. Like I would really
You don't
like
care that they did that?
No, hold on. I do care. Hold on. I do care about female genital mutilation. I've already said that, right? But in terms of this actual court case, right? Like, yes, I agree with you. If I assuming that you're giving the story correctly, right? I'm just.
Oh, I don't know.
That.
I just pulled it up. I didn't read it.
Oh, okay, right.
Let me ask you a question. They're not gotchas. It's a literal question. Do you think that gender identity should be protected?
Oh my God, no. Sorry. I want to talk about DOGE.
I get that. I'm in the context of this. I have a series of questions to ask you. Okay, you can say no opinion, no comment.
I'm not prepared for. On female genital mutilation. If you want to have me,
I'm not going to ask you about female genital mutilation
or gender theory or whatever.
I'm not going to ask you about gender theory.
I don't want to talk about it.
So no comment.
Not on that. Like,
okay,
so come back, invite me back, and I'll have that conversation with you.
Okay, so
I'm not going to have a conversation right now.
I'll explain the issue as to migration, as we were talking about it, which correlates with the San Antonio Endeavor facility, the waste of money, and the Biden administration allowing people in. In Michigan, of course, a judge ruled that this is 6 years old, that the ban on female genital mutilation was unconstitutional. Someone in this country might ask themselves, how is it possible that a judge would declare such a thing? So the reason I bring up human rights law, and you don't got to answer it, whatever, is that in New York City, they say that gender identity is defined as self-expression, meaning the name you give yourself, the pronouns you use, and the clothing you wear, no matter what it may be. Well, this literally means that an individual could dress up like a cowboy and call himself cowboy gender. But I don't but I don't think a judge is going to look at that and say, well, hold on there a gosh darn minute. So in the story I've told quite a bit, I talked to several human rights lawyers in New York and asked them, if I dressed up in, say, a clown costume for my first day at work and said I was clown gender, would they have to respect me dressed up like Bozo? And they said, no, they can fire you for that. And I said, hold on, though. The law clearly states in plain English, what I wear, what I call myself is my gender identity, and it is a protected class. The response I got was a judge would laugh you out of the courtroom if you tried to pull that card. What ends up happening in places like Michigan, and I'm not saying it was specifically for this story, is if you have an area that becomes 60, 70% of any culture, the judges in that place will represent that culture. When the question arises to a Christian moral traditionalist American, should we ban female genital mutilation? They're going to say without a doubt, well, of course, you can't do that. But what happens when you get a judge who this is part of their culture and they call it female circumcision, not mutilation? They're going to say, you can't ban that. That's a religious traditional practice. The judges interpret the law, and they will interpret as their culture and moral traditions dictate. To my point, to wrap it all up, and we can go back to DOGE or whatever, when I mentioned I don't know that we necessarily want more or less immigration, the question is not just economics or unemployment, it's cultural displacement. Do we want people to form communities where their judges interpret our laws in ways that would actually shock Americans? Like you were both rather shocked to find a judge in Detroit said that it is unconstitutional to ban female genital mutilation.
Can I add one thing to that before we go back to DOGE? This is also another problem that I found out recently. I saw New York was considering letting legal migrants start voting, which I'm not a fan of in local elections, and I think California already does it. That exemplifies exacerbates the problem that you're talking about right there. If we're having people that are not even citizens voting,
they'll always vote for their.
I mean, like imagine if I was in Texas, right, and I have a ranch because I do. If I decided, hey, I'm going to bring in a bunch of immigrants, and we're making the local laws to where, hey, they could vote. Well, they're just going to vote me into office. And I'm going to never get out because what's good for me is good for them. Like this is just a pathway to corruption that the Dems have been using, which is bringing in immigrants.
It's the end of democracy.
To corruption. Wow.
If non-citizens,
embarrassing. Sorry,
it is embarrassing. I would be embarrassed if I was.
I don't.
Non-citizens.
No, yeah, it's
an
embarrassing argument you're making here. But whatever. So I'm just
if non-citizens can vote, like they proposed in San Francisco and New York, and I believe in Connecticut.
I think there's a couple.
There is no democracy at all. Democracy ends.
Great. Let's talk about DOGE and how DOGE is ending our democracy. Right?
Let's talk
about sure, of course, right?
How is DOGE ending democracy?
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. I'm sorry. let's talk about that. So the reason why I think that DOGE is ending the democracy is specifically because it's going and doing an end run around our own particular processes.
You did mention that when we opened the show. The question we then came to was, this gentleman here voted for it, and Trump won the popular vote, and now Trump isn't doing what he promised he'd do.
Okay. And I got a question.
How is that not democracy, though?
Sure, hold on. Well, then let's look at that, right? So there was a Reuters poll, right, talking about Americans are broadly supportive of the idea of cutting the size of the federal government, with 59% of respondents to a Reuters/Ipsos poll completed on Wednesday saying they supported that goal. Right?
How many voters? How many people were in the poll?
I don't know.
Well, it's important because we did a poll in November and found the majority of the country supported DOGE.
It said 50. Well, I'm saying
that poll.
It said 59%
of how many people?
I don't know. We got
right. So let me tell you.
Well, we can just look up the poll. That's
70
fine.
plus million people voted for DOGE. A poll is an opinion extrapolation.
Hold on. We're going to talk about like what they voted for. I
want to talk about that.
That's what I'm getting. Okay, well then that's what I'm trying to get to, right? So 59% of respondents to Reuters Ipsos poll that was completed this Wednesday said they supported that goal, right? But then they asked, right? So how about the way Trump is going about it, right? In terms of firing tens of thousands of federal workers, right? And then 59%, exactly that, say they opposed the way that Trump is doing, right? So you're correct that people voted for cutting government, right? Like 70 million or whatever the number is, right? Voted for cutting that. But
Elon Musk to do it specifically.
No, hold on.
Yes.
They voted to cut waste, fraud, and abuse.
So
right?
let's pause real quick.
Hold on.
To address your point,
Sure.
Elon Musk for a year said, we will have DOGE. We will go in. We will cut these programs. We will fire people. Trump came out and campaigned on how they were going to do it, and people voted for him. You can argue that the masses are ignorant and didn't pay attention.
But just to prime your point real quick before you go on, because this has been a point that I've heard in the debate sphere, and it's mainly like a lot lately, right? And it's that all these Republicans got bamboozled. They can't believe what they voted for. What is Musk doing? And I'm sitting here going, who are these people? Because I'm a Republican. I talk to Republicans daily in my real life. I talk to Republicans in the online space. I talk to people. I haven't met a single Republican that just going, I hate it. There's some like me go, oh, I have some concerns about like what's going to happen next with a new agency and if like a Dim gets in charge. But because we don't trust big government, right? But overall, I haven't met a single Republican that these Dims are talking. These are phantom Republicans.
Yeah.
That are going, no, Lord, they're coming for us. It's ridiculous.
It turns out within Gibbs' friend group, everyone seems to agree. Amazing.
You think my friend group leans right?
Yeah. It turns out within my Christian friend group, right? Everyone really loves Christ. You think this is a great guy, right? Who would have seen that coming?
I mean, most of my friends are leftists.
It's not democracy.
Hold on. What does democracy mean? Like, what do people actually vote for, right? Like, the average person says is so that they're going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, right? That they're going to shrink the size of the federal government. And the federal government being this big, unwieldy thing in people's minds, they say, sure, yes, actually, that's great. Waste, fraud, and abuse. That's like a very convenient tagline that we can just repeat over and over again, right? But the details of that matter. Of course,
what do you think Trump ran on?
Hold on. How do the details of the plan not actually matter?
I just want to...
Because they didn't know.
I'm going to try and get this... Just answer this question. How would you define democracy?
How would I define democracy? People voting to just people voting. That's actually democracy. Just people, the people voting. That's democracy.
Like voting for what?
It depends. If we're in a democratic republic, right, then we're voting for representatives. If we're in a direct democracy, then we're voting directly for the policies.
And we're in a democratic republic.
Yeah.
So we have a constitutional republic with democratically elected representatives.
Sure, hold on. So you're saying that, okay.
I was just asking.
Hold on. Then let me ask you this, right? Are you saying that within a representative democracy, that people never end up voting for a representative who says they're going to do a thing, right? And then they start doing that thing, but they didn't understand the details. And so, like, what they're actually getting is not what they want. Before
representative democracy.
Hold on. Before we just got started, right? We were in the green room. You talked about the Green New Deal.
Yeah,
right?
I was a big fan.
You said how you were a big fan of the Green New Deal until you heard the
released
details until you released it, right?
right.
So let's say you were a constituent of AOC, right?
Yep.
And you voted for that. She says she's going to get the Green New Deal. I support that. But then when she actually gets in office, she puts out a plan that you don't support. Now, you're saying, well, that's just democracy. And it is just democracy, but that doesn't necessarily it captures exactly the will of you, the individual, correct?
But here's the issue. When AOC first got elected and they're talking about a Green New Deal, the implication was a public works program investing in green energy, rebuilding roads and bridges. We've got crumbling infrastructure. And I said, that sounds fantastic. Of course, my position usually on this stuff is we got to cut spending somewhere to pay for it. We shouldn't be taxing people to do it. We shouldn't be spending money on wars. Let's stop spending money on Ukraine, Israel, insert country, Afghanistan, and bring that money back home. When AOC then released a resolution, it was diversity nonsense. It was hiring. It was getting academic scholarships to minorities. And I was like, I don't know what that's all about. The question then is, if you believe that, or the issue I suppose is, if you believe that democracy is being threatened, and you believe and agree with an institution in which you vote for a representative democratically and they get in office, if your intention then is to subvert the individual who was put into office, you are a threat to democracy. Do you agree with the system we have where we vote for representatives?
I agree with the Constitution, right? And so, and within that Constitution,
Yes, we vote for representatives.
Yes, indeed. And that Constitution has clauses. It's not simply that we vote for them and they do willy-nilly, right? They simply exist in this thing called the government and they do whatever they want, right?
So we have
Sure. Yeah, yes. We have structures within that, right? And we have laws. And DOGE is literally breaking those laws.
What laws are they breaking?
Sure. Okay, let's talk about it, right? Like,
We're changing the subject here now. Let's wrap up.
The people that voted.
Okay, sure. Then let's talk about that, right? So let's talk about veterans.
Well, let's wrap up the last point.
Okay.
The point of which you asked me is, we have a system in place. People get elected all the time who lie. Politicians lie. Everybody knows it. People vote hoping that the person will represent them to the best of their abilities. This is the system we have. And a lot of people on the left keep saying our democracy, our democracy, our democracy. It's more of a liberal talking point than a conservative one, because conservatives say constitutional republic all the time. If you would try to upend the administration that was elected by your own system, which you support, you are a threat to democracy.
If that administration is upending the Constitution, they're a threat
absolutely
to democracy.
That's definitionally incorrect.
That's not, no, because they're breaking those laws that I'm talking about.
So there is a mechanism by which you can remove Donald Trump. It's called impeachment and conviction. If you are trying to obstruct and suspend the will of the democratic system, you're a threat to our democracy. So right now, you can argue the people did not expect Elon to do this, that, or otherwise.
Sure.
Well,
the appropriate process would be then Congress impeaches. Unfortunately, the people also elected a Republican majority, and the Republicans, looking at their constituents and current polling, which they track all year round, are supporting Donald Trump because they want to win again in 2 years. The indications are there is no popularity in stopping what Trump is doing.
Yeah, I think currently, certainly, it depends on where you go, and depends,
what about Republicans? Because that's what you're.
Well, yeah. But again, I'm trying to get to that. Let's talk about these things. Okay, so let's talk about veterans, right? Veterans make up about 30%, according to this article from The Independent. Veterans make about 30% of the nation's federal workforce, right? So they've been disproportionately affected by these firings. So I care about veterans. I'm not sure about you guys, right?
Sure.
Okay.
You think the VA does a good job?
Hold on. Pull it back, right? So I care about veterans. I care about what happens to them. I care that veterans are part of this workforce, are being valuable members of the workforce, and they're suddenly being cut and being told they're unnecessary, that they're bloat necessarily, right? And so veterans also are more likely to vote for Donald Trump. Here is a collection of veterans who voted for Donald Trump, right? But then guess what? They got fired. Nathan Hooven is a disabled Air Force veteran who voted for Donald Trump in November. Barry, barely 3 months later, he's now unemployed and says he feels betrayed by the president's dramatic downsizing of the federal government that cost him his job. Right? I have more stories. James Stansel, 60-year-old Army veteran who was fired last month from his job as a supply technician at the VA hospital in Milwaukee, said it felt like he'd been shot and jumped out of a helicopter.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous, Prime.
I'm sorry.
Hold on.
us to hear the story of veterans.
First of all, if you know any veterans, they all hate the VA. One, two. We know the VA was spending federal money to have orgies. That's literally a thing that came up recently. It was a big controversy. You can Google it if you want. Look up VA orgy. It's crazy stuff, right? So, like, why are we going to be spending money like on orgies? Hold on, Brian. 1 second here. Like, so when I'm sitting here hearing what you're saying, and you're saying, oh, I can find an anecdotal example of one guy that got fired.
That's what you just used, anecdotal examples. Hey, my friend group.
Hold on.
My friend group likes DOGE.
So sure, I'm sitting here and I'm talking about in mass quantities, right? I voted for this.
You were just
everybody that I know voted for this.
Oh, everyone you know.
Hold on, Brian. So when I'm sitting here going, I'm looking, you're finding one example of a guy that fired.
I have more examples. You interrupted me.
We can go back to that 1 second.
Okay.
But let me just finish. When I'm looking at America as a whole, right, I'm seeing hey, what do you think that cutting the spending looks like, right? This is what it looks like. This is what we voted for. Trump ran on a couple things. He said, close the border. He did that. He said he's going to try to get out of Ukraine. We got a ceasefire going. He says he's going to stop. He's going to cut spending. DOGE is cutting spending. This is what cutting the bloat looks like. Sometimes people are going to get fired. I'm sorry. Tough tits. The Postmaster General said they could cut 10K jobs and become more efficient, and they've been like barely able to stay afloat for a while now. Whenever we're sitting here saying there's 10K jobs that can be cut,
that's a lie.
That is bloat.
I have the source.
I have the source. Hold on. I'm sure you. I have a fact check real quick. Put a pin in. Just don't forget what you're going to say. I asked ChatGPT, do veterans hate the VA? Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
ChatGPT says.
I appreciate that, but the problem with the hold on, this is a bit of distraction, but I'm gonna gauge it just for a second, right? The problem with the VA, right, is that there's a lot of inefficiencies there, right? And there's something that we should deal with. There's a lot of agreement.
I can literally attach to a veteran right now that says they hate the VA.
Yeah, but the reasons they use the VA because when they actually get those services, they like those services.
Because it's paid for.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, everybody likes a free handout.
Yeah, exactly. Because people would like their health care to be.
I'm sure that I'd love to buy steak and lobster on an EBT card too. That'd be great.
I get it. You're conservative,
I'm sorry,
right?
You can.
I know.
I get you're conservative, and you don't like that a government that cares for its people that and does that through healthcare. I understand that. We're not going to agree on that, so I'm not going to argue with that. My point is that when they get the actual services, yeah, they like the VA. But in any case, right?
When they get them after they've been gotten fucked by the bureaucracy, that's the big threat to democracy.
Oh yeah, sure. So I think the stories of veterans are important, right? So we have James Evan, a reservist therapist at the Salem VA, was fired in February. His 8th month as a probationary worker. Evans said a patient had just told him how much he appreciated his work when he received his email. He had moved from California with his wife, 3-year-old son, and a 1-year-old daughter for a job that he had long wanted. Even Evans, a 36-year-old Army veteran, was the only one working in his family. He said he feels scared, numb, and angry. I cried, Evans said, about learning about his firing. I haven't done that in a while because you're just kind of free-falling now. You're in an area to where you're not really familiar with, and you're just being left out to dry. This is what many of our veterans are feeling. So, what are we doing here?
How long have the veterans felt like left out with the bureaucracy?
Yeah, and so you're like, and the way to fix that is to fire them.
Yeah, because you fire the bad employees, you get better employees.
Are they bad employees?
Well, my view would be, I don't see how a singular story of someone upset over firings has a bearing on the entire system that is being challenged.
We have that famous story just came out this week about this girl that said, literally, I can't believe they fired me for poor performance. I didn't know poor performance was a thing. Like, that is insanity.
But my point is, there's a meme where it's a person crying, and it's a little kid crying, and they say, "Oh no, the child is crying. Quick, burn the Constitution." What the meme attempts to exemplify is, look, you're not going to go to a conservative, especially, or a parent, and be like, the sad child warrants that you throw away your system. So a veteran going to the media and saying something bad happened to me, it's like, okay, the system is broken.
Something bad happens to them all the time. The VA bureaucracy.
Then
That's the problem.
Then we can also say that, just because people support
democracy.
Yeah, also then it's also democracy if people decide that this isn't what they wanted, right?
If in 2026 they vote for Democrats in the House, Donald Trump gets impeached and then convicted in the Senate,
yeah,
I agree.
Sure. No one is saying that elections don't have consequences, right? They absolutely do.
My point is largely just, right now we are existing in our democratic process. And if there is subversive action taken to stop the current administration and what they're doing, and I'm saying subversive. I'm not saying legal standard political stuff. I'm saying subversive stuff. That's a threat to our democracy. So, for instance, right now what we have is a president who won the popular vote, who won every swing state, specifically with one of his core projects, DOGE, and the firing of bureaucrats. And now we have people on the left protesting, which is fine. But then we have people setting cars on fire, shooting at Tesla vehicles.
Crazy stuff.
We had a series of swattings last night.
2 assassination attempts on Trump.
So this is the biggest threat to our democracy we face, that when Trump was leading in the polls, they tried to kill him. Like two people as the day, I mean.
Okay, well then, agreed. Not favor for the assassinations, right?
Or the arson or the vandalism.
Or the arson or the vandalism.
So right now, my point is, the perceived threat to our democracy that you see is the administration doing what it told people it would do. The threat to democracy I see is terrorism from the left.
That's a problem.
Okay, hold on. Then we agree. All right. We agree that, hey, if you are causing violence and destruction, right, and not like, illegal, peaceful protests, that you should be in jail, that's undermining democracy. Oh, okay. If that's your point, well, then I agree with that.
Yeah. So I would say.
All right. But that doesn't undermine my point, though. Right. So you're saying that is a threat to democracy. Understood. Right. I wasn't saying that DOGE is the threat to democracy. It's simply another threat to democracy.
But
right?
but the paradox here is, people voted for it, and the process is playing out as they chose.
Absolutely.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't vote for it.
They didn't.
No, they did. Hold on.
What do you think? Like cleaning out the government?
Hold on. That's what you can keep saying. What do you think? Actually, yes. What did they think? They thought that yes, we're cutting.
I can't read minds.
Yeah, I know. You can't read minds.
Elon Musk formed
DOGE
I know. Well before the election. Trump campaigned on it. People voted for it. Now it's happening.
Hold on. Saying that we are going to make the government more efficient without details of exactly what that looks like, right?
No.
We have details.
They were listen. It was explicit. Drain the swamp has been a slogan of the Trump campaign going back to 2015.
Drain the swamp means fucking nothing. It means fucking nothing.
What do you mean it doesn't mean nothing?
It means nothing.
That's not an argument.
Who is the swamp?
That's not an argument.
Actually, I will make that argument. I'm so glad
that's
you
a thought-terminating comment, right?
For 10 years,
you could just say
Donald Trump has campaigned on firing people and gutting the bureaucratic state.
What does that? Hold on. But what do people actually think about when they consider these things?
This speculation.
I know. Hold on. Exactly. I agree with you. It's speculation because these individuals say, yes, I want the bureaucrat that's been built up within conservative politics, right, for decades, right? The evil bureaucrat. Yeah, I want them gone. Okay. But what I don't want is the veteran that I know. I don't want him fired.
The point is, Donald Trump ran a campaign for a year. Elon Musk and his DOGE are going to fire people. The process is playing out right now. This is not an argument in favor or against. It's what happened.
Yep.
Your argument is you believe that people don't like the way it's happening. We don't actually know that.
I have, first of all, I have literally a poll. I quoted you.
You have a poll of how many people, right?
We can look up the number of people. It's a poll
sure can. So the data we have
run by a reputable source, Reuters.
The poll we have is the election took place. Beyond this,
could you look up the poll, please? Sorry, whoever does it. Sorry.
Yeah. The point I'm making is we had an election based on this promise to do a certain thing. You are now arguing people do not like the way that thing is happening. I'm saying we don't actually know that, poll or otherwise.
Okay.
Can I just talk about the drain the swamp thing real quick, and then I'll turn it right over to you. This is like when I hear drain the swamp, and I envision, I don't expect Trump to go in there and try to do this. And not to quote Alex Jones, but I will quote Alex Jones. I know I look like a higher T version of him, but he says, hey, I don't expect him to not get shit up to his ankles, right? Like, this is what he's doing. He's going in there, he's getting in there, he's cleaning stuff out. Like, when you're sitting here arguing these things, yeah, I don't like that veterans are having problems, right? It sucks that a veteran got fired or this veteran got fired. But when I hear clean a swamp, I go, hey, look, there's a VA. We have documented examples of the VA using taxpayer dollars to host orgies. Like, that is something that happened, right? That's like not even arguable. It's not a debate. And we're going to sit here and go, okay, that Charlie should be cleared out. Those people should be fired. No, so when we're downsizing and we're clearing people out, that's exactly what Americans voted for in mass.
Gibbs, if you're talking about people doing something improper at work, those people should get fired. Hold on. Like, if we found out, right? I'm sure Tim runs a tight organization, right? But we found out that one of his workers, maybe this guy right here, I don't know, I don't like the cut of his jib, right? But maybe if this guy was up to some shady shit, right? The response shouldn't be Tim shuts down his organization, turns it all down, right? Because he was
might be if he's got a whole organization.
This guy was jerking off in the studio just before we came here, right? And Tim sees it. He's like, what the fuck, man, right? And so he's like, well, you know what? I'm going to burn down the organization. The only way to fix this is to burn it all down or to fire half my employees, like the other guy who's like doing the coding, right? He needs to get fired too because this guy's jerking.
Hold on.
Control yourself,
Maybe. Hold on. What was your name, sir? What's your name?
Maybe he doesn't want us to know.
I'm getting attacked out here, but Kellen.
Was it?
Kellen.
All right. So say Mr. Kellen here runs Mr. Pool's newsroom or whatever, right? A different word. And Mr. Kellen has decided that we're going to have orgies every Friday, and we're going to do it on Tim Pool's dime.
Tim's got a wild
and then like his employees, since this is the work culture, is gone along with it. Guess what? He is absolutely within his right to go, hey, we need to gut all of that and get rid of it. When you're sitting here going, oh, hey, hold on. When you're sitting here going, oh, these people didn't vote for this.
Right.
This is what Trump campaigned on. Like, we want this. This is what we want.
So let me just draw the distinction here. You're saying if one employee does a bad thing, we shouldn't shut everything down. You're saying, yes, but if the work culture and they're all doing a bad thing, you should.
Yeah, I mean, we should take a look at it.
So the question is, to what degree were these agencies doing bad thing?
To what degrees were there orgies in VA?
Or inefficiently, or poor performance.
How big were the orgies?
Guys, let me ask.
Bacchanalia?
If you have a company of 50 people and one guy is doing something untoward, should you shut the whole company down? Just yes or no? One guy's doing a bad thing.
Depends on which person it is. If it's the CEO, and maybe. If not, then no, probably not.
Even if just a CEO is secretly doing something bad,
what if it's the owner? Like, say it's like, I own a ranch.
Someone else owns it and is funding it, and
then no.
And if there was a company and literally 70% were doing something untoward, should you shut it down?
Yeah, like if the Catholic Church has a multi-decade, probably multi-century track record of abusing.
You're playing games here. We're trying to argue a simple.
No. I'm agreeing with you. I'm giving.
Yes, but you're trying to divert, and
I'm not trying to divert. I'm giving you an example.
And when you do something like that, it's intentionally antagonistic and changes the subject. My point is this:
I'm not trying to antagonize.
We actually completely agree. We all agree that if a company has an overwhelming workforce of corruption, we're going to shut it down. We may have to just fire all his employees and then start from scratch or leave it a skeleton crew. And we all agree if one person's doing something wrong, then we just fire that person. We don't have to throw the whole thing out. So the real question we're asking is, are the institutions or the offices, the departments that are being gutted, are their whole workforces doing something wrong, or is it a small bunch that should be excised? That's the real question we're asking. How we determine that is very difficult, but that's where we're actually agreeing. So your view is the departments are largely broken and corrupt, and your view is they're largely not.
Well, it's not even just broken and corrupt. Like let's just take an organization like I don't know. Say we take the VA, right? Say he guts the VA. Sometimes you need to gut them and get out the poor performers and gut it. I'll use actually a better one. The USPS, right?
We're going to rehire them.
Hold on. The Postmaster General just said he wants to cut 10K employees and he wants DOGE to help him, right? Now, in my mind, what happens is now you've cut all these employees. You have an excess of funds. What you could do is instead of rehiring them, you might replace them with more qualified people at market value, right? So you could pay the better people that could do twice the work in half the time and pay them more, and that's more efficient, and that's going to be better. And that's what the DOGE is arguing they should be doing in a lot of these cases, is cutting poor performers. These people couldn't even answer a 5-question thing from Musk. They're sitting in troll emails back going, oh, go fuck yourself. I played myself and I
go around the tech billionaire who comes in.
You don't have a performance.
They did have performance reviews.
Yeah.
Hey, hold on.
And that's a new admin.
These individuals literally did have performance reviews. They're being fired for bad performance reviews, but we had these individuals actually show us their past performance reviews, and they're excellent. Yeah, that's
under a corrupt government.
Under a corrupt government. Okay, I guess the performance. Sorry.
Let's try this. Let's try this. Is there a particular department or institution that you think is being wrongly gutted?
Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, all right? So that's pretty much shut down. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that's important, right? Consumer Financial Protection is actually working for you, the taxpayer, right? It's working for individuals who are in contact with the financial landscape, right? All these institutions, in terms of banks, right? In terms of non-bank entities that also deal with a lot of financial transactions. It is an excellent institution, all right? And what this institution has done done? It has returned over its lifetime $21 billion in fraudulent transactions, right, from the big banks. Individuals who don't have the resources to actually take these guys on, right? These institutions, like, for instance, the credit agencies, right? That you don't have that ability. You could have gone to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and they would have helped you out, right? And they did help individuals out. Now that is no more. That is no more.
I mean, so interesting you brought up the banks, but when was the last time that we had a balanced budget? Do you know? Do you know which one?
Hold on. That's a distraction.
Hold on.
Yeah, no, I don't want.
I mean,
the idea here is to address his concerns over the threats to democracy, and the issue we're bringing up is specific institutions that are being gutted that should not be.
Sure, I understand that, and this is where I'm going with it. The last person to do it was Andrew Jackson, right? And so when I look at this, you
balance the budget. I believe so.
We've never balanced the budget.
I thought.
Yeah, 1837.
Never.
But okay,
You got rid of national. You got rid of national debt.
Maybe I have.
Country's nuts.
Okay, so then maybe I have incorrect information. Please go ahead.
So anyway, Andrew Jackson, got rid of national debt in 1837. Right now, okay, he didn't like the banks. You brought up banks. I'm not a huge fan. Listen, sure, maybe the CFPB. Sure. All right, cool. You know what? I'll even grant you one. Here's one that I wish Elon would clear out, like the ATF. We have gutted the ATF. I think that'd be a big fan, like all conservatives. We got questions. When you're saying are there organizations that maybe he's given a look at and, maybe they are good? Sure, sometimes there's going to be hiccups. That's a given when you have these massive bureaucracies that have existed for 20, 30 years unchecked. I'm not going to argue that there's not going to be hiccups. Absolutely. But on the flip side, you can't sit here and go point at every little hiccup and be like, nothing good is coming from this.
Let's address the CFPB real quick. So here's what I've pulled up. The CFPB operates independently from Congress, getting its funding from the Federal Reserve instead of annual congressional appropriations.
That was to protect
This has led to lawsuits and accusations that it lacks oversight.
Yeah, from the banks.
Critics claim that CFPB enforces regulations selectively, often targeting businesses and banks while ignoring fraud from politically favored groups.
Interesting.
Many believe CFPB imposes excessive and burdensome rules on financial institutions, hurting small business and limiting consumer choice. The CFPB faced multiple scandals, including allegations of discrimination in hiring and wasteful spending on luxury office renovations. However, progressives and consumer advocacy groups defend the CFPB, arguing it protects consumers from predatory financial practices. The agency remains one of the most controversial in the federal government.
Yeah, okay, let's see what the CFPB actually has been doing, okay? CFPB closes overdraft loophole to save American billions in fees, right? Like banks overdrafting people to have, there's all kinds of ways that banks can increase their fees through overdraft.
Wells Fargo's capped at 3 now.
Three what?
Overdraft fees, they Wells Fargo, for example, if you have, say I have a charge go through and they
can overdraft you 3 times?
Yeah, for 30 bucks a pop.
BS.
That's what the CFPB actually
they can only do it
fought
per
against.
charge.
Exactly that.
Overdraft fees should be banned and illegal.
Yeah, but it has to be for different charges. So if I got a negative account, it would be $35, and then it would be the next one. Say a Twitch payment went through or something, then they would charge me another $35.
Or they'll
cap it at 3.
Or don't let a credit card clear if there's no money in the account. How about that?
Hey,
they know this.
100%.
These banks are full of
something else that they would do, right, is that they would rearrange the numbers. So let's say if at first the first charge wouldn't overdraft, but the next one did, right? They would switch it. So the one that overdraft, the bigger charge, would come in first, right? And then you would have 2 overdraft fees, right? So the other one that didn't overdraft at first, that switched. So now they get 2 cracks at you rather than 1. That's the thing that banks are doing. The CFPB actively, directly targeted that, right? CFPB sues Experian for sham investigations of credit report errors, right? So people would go to Experian, right, a credit agency, and we know you need credit, the importance of that, right? They would go and say, hey, I've got an error on my file, right? I need you to take a look at this, right? The CFPB would say, oh yeah, we're gonna get right on it, right? Type. But it turns out they didn't actually do it, right? And they'd be gaslighting people, right? The CFPB sued them for that. CFPB proposes a rule to ban contract clauses to strip away fundamental freedoms. So there are. A rule would forbid fine print that seeks to censor speech or wipe away enshrined rights. So basically, if you're a bank, right, and you're saying that I want to keep you from doing whatever, right? You're just gonna put some bullshit clause in the contract, right? That doesn't actually have to do with delivering the services. Hey, you can't do that, right? CFPB finalizes a rule to remove medical bills from credit reports. right? So because medical bills, massive amount of the debt within our country, right? Removing that from your credit report, so having some sort of a medical bill, a payment, doesn't destroy you in your ability to work or to find a place to work, right, or to live. CFPB.
Wait, is that a good thing that they're removing that from
Absolutely.
reports, like credit reports?
Absolutely.
I don't know if I agree that that's a necessarily
Okay,
good
all right.
So,
I'm
so
gonna- I'll leave
let's do this because we only have about 20 minutes. Let's just start from this point. CFPB, for the sake of argument, is the greatest organization we have in government. Let's just agree that it's fantastic. Yeah. It has 1,758 staff members. Currently, they're facing reductions. A judge is barring that. USAID has over 10,000 staff. It's been cut down to 294. What are your thoughts on USAID? Should we be should it be left untouched? Should DOGE have not gone in? What do you think?
Well, DOGE should not have gone in. Should the American government have gone in and...
DOGE is. It's the U.S. Digital Service.
You keep saying this, Prime, but
Yeah,
if they were going to go in, they would have already done it.
DOGE is the United States Digital Service.
Yes.
And they call it DOGE for fun. They renamed it.
Yeah, they renamed it,
So
indeed.
these are U.S. government employees who went in.
Sure. Yeah, hold on. I understand that. But DOGE is doing that in an unconstitutional manner. The manner in which they do it actually...
Hold on. I don't believe the Constitution actually discusses
DOGE.
Yeah,
No.
or these issues.
Of course, first of all...
Only the technicality of like whether or not Congress or there should be judicial review.
The technicality of a judicial review, or sorry, appointment. You mean appointment?
Constitution doesn't
You mean
directly
appointment review, like Congress appointing a person to actually do this.
The point is, you said they're going in unconstitutionally.
Okay.
I don't believe the issue of interagency terminations and finance is an issue of the Constitution.
Actually, it is. It's 100%. That's
What part of the Constitution?
Well, I mean, Tim, I've been trying to drive to this point for like an hour. All right, please let me do that.
Yeah, what part of the
Okay, going to do it? Okay, right. So the Constitution says that the Congress is in charge of the purse. The Congress is in charge of distributing funds, right? Deciding where those funds go. The executive executes that, right? And so what's happening is that this group of individuals goes in and they are making cuts, right? But as we're looking at how these things work previously, right, in terms of looking at the contracts and stuff, like there are obligations, right, designed by Congress. Congress says we're going to spend this amount of money, right, to hire individuals to make this infrastructure improvement, right? The president does not have the ability to simply decide, I'm not going to do that, right?
You're actually wrong.
Oh, yeah, through the Impoundment Act. The Impoundment Act of 1974, right? There is a process to do that. There is a process for the president to say, "I like to delay or possibly cancel this money," right? So that's a process that he could use. That is not DOGE. That is not DOGE.
The challenge at hand over the constitutionality is that Article 2, Section 1 says the executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States. Mm-hmm. He shall hold his office, et cetera, et cetera. Sole executive power is held by the president. Mm-hmm. We've had this strange phenomenon in this country. So one, USAID is operating under the executive branch, meaning Congress can apportion funding to USAID and the executive branch has control over what it does. Mm-hmm. Meaning you can put the funding there, Trump can say you're all fired. The issue then with checks and balances would be the judiciary needs to step in to make a determination as to whether or not this is being operated correctly. But it is within Trump's purview to do this. The check would be now if the courts agree or disagree.
No, he can.
So it is constitutional.
No, it's not constitutional. We have plenty of challenges. We have literally plenty of challenges. Well, hold on. You're just putting up articles.
Constitution.
Yeah, hold on. No, but it's not. You're simply stating that's constitutional. But we have actually legal experts saying that's not constitutional.
Well, but they keep.
So they would happen to know better.
Hold on.
I'm going to pause you again. USAID operates under the executive branch for which the president has sole authority.
Yeah. So
that means the president has the constitutional authority as he oversees these departments as how they operate.
The president
Congress can apportion, and then what is going to happen right now is the judiciary will engage in what's called a check on the executive branch to make a determination about
and they're literally doing that right now. Hold on.
But
this is important. This is literally the heart of it. Okay, the heart of what we're talking about. So yes, they operate under the executive branch, but that doesn't mean that like when Congress says you have to use this money for this thing and this thing doesn't get done, that's okay. Right, that is impounding. That's violating the Impoundment Act. All right, so what we
Prime, do you agree the judicial system has to decide what's constitutional?
Hold on. They're literally in the process. We have plaintiff court
we have
cases.
them winning cases
We have
left and right.
No,
Like-
they're not. They're not.
Okay,
They're
all right,
losing
so here-
cases.
here, I'll
Hold
give
on,
you
hold on.
cases
Sorry,
where they've
hold
won,
on.
though.
I'm not.
Go ahead.
I don't care. Sorry, I don't care about this right now. Hold on. I gotta focus. This is the point. We have limited amount of time left. This is the point. Congress has said that we have a certain amount of funds that we're going to be used for these processes to build this infrastructure. You can't just close down this agency and say we're not going to do it. We have money for the FAA, right? For safety checks or whatever the fuck, right? Then that money has to be used for that. So yes, he can fire those individuals, right? That you were saying before, but then he has to somehow actually accomplish that task, right? So the point is to have new safety upgrades to our planes, right? Those safety upgrades have to happen unless he actually goes through the process. And there is a process, right? A process he's used before in his first term, where he can cancel those expenditures. He's not doing that, and this is why. Hold on. Final thing.
But you're wrong.
Okay.
I looked it up. The president gets a 1 fiscal year delay of spending at his own discretion, and Congress can then, unless Congress. The president can temporarily it's called the deferral. So the president cannot rescind fundings, but he can for 1 fiscal year defer payment for policy reasons.
Well, I want to add to this real quick. So Prime keeps making the claim that it's unconstitutional, right? There's been a ton of lawsuits, right? First, we could go into with the dates. I have them, and we could go into watch. But first, they argued that they couldn't get full access to that. Said that wasn't cool. DOGE won that case. They said that they were not allowed to exist at all. But then DOGE was formed as a reconstructed temp position to be disbanded by July 4th, 2026, and reformed of the Obama agency, so it's allowed to operate. They won that case. USAID was put in place. They won that case. Admin said that DOGE has to be backed by Trump's opponent heads of each department to the left. They've won all of these.
DOGE also just lost the case because this agency that's supposed to be the most transparent agency we've ever had, right? Also wants to be exempt from FOIA requests. They just lost the case in terms of that. In terms of a judge saying, no, you are subject to that. You have to actually respond to these FOIA requests, right? There are other cases as well. But hold on, before we get distracted with that, right? Which doesn't actually fucking matter in terms of what the point that I'm trying to make here, right? In terms of having processes to defer. If it's a simple deferral, right? Okay, but then what happens after that? Are we rehiring the CFPB, right?
Bro, please. One of the conditions of deferral is, quote, to achieve savings through efficiency.
That's hilarious.
If spending can be delayed to reduce costs to increase efficiency, the president can defer funds.
You're talking about empowerment. Yes. Yeah,
right.
That's part of...
So this means what he's doing is allowed under the empowerment.
No, because there's a process to do this, right? For instance, if he wants to cancel a payment, he has...
It's called deferral.
I know.
And he's not even doing that.
Hold on. Yeah, I know he's not. I'm saying...
Bro, I'm just saying, I looked up the law.
Yeah, you're not looking at... I looked up... Don't worry, because I looked at the law that I cited, so I know what I'm talking about.
Unless otherwise specifically provided by law.
Yes, I'm saying, but he's not...
The president can legally withhold the funds for 1 fiscal year.
But he's not doing... Yes, I get that. The law allows you to do this, right? But how does it allow you to do it? You have to follow a process. And he's not actually doing that. And it involves consulting Congress. There is a, for instance, there is a simple, to cancel those funds, it's a simple majority that you can get through Congress. But he's not actually going through Congress. Why is he not actually going through Congress?
He didn't go through Congress.
But he does. That's the law. That's what I'm talking about. So when I say it's unconstitutional, when I'm saying it's breaking the law, that means, hey, you're not following the law. If you're going through another process you just made up, that would be breaking the law. That's the entire point. Aren't you following this, Gibbs?
Hold on. No, I disagree here. Let me just...
Okay, no. A fair point. For deferral, the president sends a message to Congress for which they reject, modify, or approve. And it's a freeze of 1 year. I do think it's fair to say that Trump is not actually deferring anything. And the issue then is we are in a, to be fair, constitutionally nebulous position of Trump firing people isn't legally rescission or deferral.
So, okay, yes.
The
argument would be that it is.
I mean,
their argument that it's not.
Well, so let me just, I'm gonna examine another portion of this because we only got a few minutes left. But we'll just real quick. So DOGE right now, which is has said, and this has been controversial this last week, it estimates that the government had 4.6 million credit cards and 90 million unique transactions in the fiscal year 2024. All right, I've worked for several companies that have given me a company credit card, right? And I've had to answer with a receipt every time I spent money on that card. You're telling me with 4.6 million credit cards issued that there is not potential for waste in there, and then we need to go in there and look it up and see. And okay, now hold on. I get that you're saying it's been appointed, this money's been appointed, appointed. But say there's money that's been appointed for the credit cards, and we find out they're spending it buying T-bone steaks every night with the misses. Like, guess what? Yeah, the money might have been in proportion for these credit cards, but it's being misused.
If
and
that
it's not unconstitutional.
If that was
to
the case,
reassess
and we
these
don't
things,
have
which
oversight,
is what DOGE is doing.
This isn't and we don't have oversight. So, in terms
DOGE
of,
is the oversight, and
it's
Trump
not the
is DOGE's oversight.
No, it's not the oversight.
You just
It's
don't
not-
like that
No,
Trump and
I'm
Elon
sorry.
are at the top.
Again,
That's your
because-
big problem.
No,
because
it's
they're
not.
the ones providing
It's not
the
that,
oversight.
right? Because I didn't like Joe Biden either, right?
Sure.
I dislike most of the politicians.
I mean, I think
but
everybody
that's not that in itself is not the reason. It doesn't matter if I like them or not. It matters if it's legal or if it's constitutional. That's the thing I'm examining, right? So I don't give a fuck if Joe Biden or Donald Trump happens to be on top. I'm examining
But
their actions.
oversight, they're
So we can
following
ignore
the
that.
oversight.
No, they're
That's why they
not
keep
following the
winning
oversight.
cases.
You're not, okay, so you're not actually you're not literally even not even listening, right?
I am
so there
listening.
is
You're just wrong.
okay, you don't know. You don't tell me about the Empowerment Act. Tell me about it.
I don't know. I mean,
You don't-
off the top
you
of
don't
my
know.
head, I don't
Yeah,
have that
know, you
information.
don't know.
I mean, you didn't have the
You don't
information for
know.
the other thing. I didn't.
You don't know.
I'd peg you on
yeah,
that.
you don't know. Yeah, you don't know. So okay, let's.
I mean, based off what he's just read,
No,
I mean, it sounds like he's doing fine.
No, he literally just said, "Hey, actually, there is a process here. He's not
deferral.
following the process."
I'm not talking
for
about deferral.
But
What I'm
Trump-
talking about
That's what
is
we're talking about.
Congress
So,
okay,
appoints
I got
funds.
to
Trump is the head of the
Alright.
executive. He decides how those funds are spent.
Trump has not deferred or rescinded any
Well,
funds.
do we disagree with this statement? Congress
Trump has
approves
not
the funds,
deferred or
correct?
rescinded any funds.
So Congress approves funds, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what I'm wrong. Trump decides as the head of the executive how those funds, since once they're allocated for a certain thing, are to be used. Is that correct?
Technically, you're 50-50. Congress can allocate funds for a specific use. Trump
Sure.
then determines how to go about that process. So,
Okay.
so it's a mix. Congress says, here's $100 million specifically to grow strawberries. Trump can say, okay, we got to grow strawberries. Hire me 10 people, send them to in California and grow strawberries.
So, okay, that's my point. So Trump has discretion on how that money is spent to an extent, right? So it's like, okay,
To the extent that it's been approved.
So when he's sitting here gutting an agency, there's no especially when it could be in the fiscal year still, there's no reason for me to go, oh, it's unconstitutional.
Okay.
Say he guts USA,
So-
he could hire new people,
Yeah.
he could spend that money differently.
So
there's no reason
if
why
you are
this
going
is
to
unconstitutional.
But real quick, you made this point, and I think you're in agreement. You said so long as what was apportioned by Congress gets done.
right.
Yes.
So Trump has to find a way to do the thing Congress
yeah.
says that has to be done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, okay. That would change the calculations if that does.
Well, we don't
happen,
know what
right?
he's gonna do
Yeah,
yet.
but right now, yes, we don't have a plan for that. Actually, we
Well, he
don't.
probably does.
And he's
Oh,
saying,
hold
he's saying
on.
he's going to close down the Department of Education, right? Like if that spending has been approved. Right, and it takes an act of Congress to actually close that down any which way, right? And which is the point that I'm talking about.
Has he?
You have to. No, but he's working. He's actively saying he's working.
gut
on
half
the
of the
plan.
plan. Linda McMahon
Has
says
he
they're gonna
shut
gut
down
half.
any department? Has any department been shut down?
Well, CFPB, but it's an agency. That's an agency, not a department. Yeah.
Yeah, so nothing's been shut down.
Well, the CFPB
no,
and the USAID.
Of the congressionally approved funds.
What do you mean? Sorry.
So
could you repeat
of the
that?
things that Congress has mandated be done, has Trump shut those things down?
If there's no workers to execute those things, then yes, they've been shut
So
down.
the answer is they have not been.
Fine. Then how are they? Okay, so the Congress appropriates, like we're going to send this amount of aid to Nigeria, whatever, right? And there's no workers to actually
not
send
USAID.
that. Look, I'm just like go with me, right? And there's no workers to actually execute that. Well, then how has that not
Okay,
been canceled?
full stop. We're not talking about hypotheticals. The question was, has Trump actually shut any of these things down?
Shut any of these things down. Are you talking about in terms of a contract or appropriations?
Anything that Congress has mandated be done, has Trump ordered shut down completely?
Yeah. Well, hold on. Because
Is it yes or no? I don't know. Don't get mad.
no, because you're moving this
I'm
around.
not at all.
Okay,
I'm
well then-
asking you.
Sure. If you're talking about in terms of what these,
No, stop. I'm not if.
the CFPB have been shut down. I've already said that before.
Okay, now now thank you for finally answering.
I said that before.
Okay.
Multiple times.
And you said it's not a department, it's an agency. Now, my follow-up question is, did Congress apportion funds for the specific task of CFPB to engage in certain practices?
Yes.
Okay. So the issue then is, one, was CFPB actually shut down? It has not been. A judge has blocked that, although it's fair to say Trump wants to. I guess. A whistleblower is now testifying that they still want to do it. However, it's been
that would be the unconstitutional
And he's been
act.
following he follows the law.
The
He
un-
follows the court's
Well, no,
decisions when they do it.
Yeah. So if shutting it down would be the thing that's the problem that I'm against. If you're saying that a court stopped him from doing the bad thing, well, then I agree with the court. But I'm still have a problem with the bad thing. So it doesn't invalidate anything that I just said.
no.
In any
Congress
case-
did not apportion funds for CFPB.
In terms of if it gets it from the Treasury, we already talked about this.
Congress did not appropriate funds for
so then
CFPB.
you can
yeah, but if
absolutely
it
shut
takes it
them
from the
down.
That's why I thought you said it wasn't a department, because you were specifically mentioning that Congress doesn't fund it.
But it gets funded indirectly. Well, we mentioned this at the very start. We were talking about the funding of the CFPB, right? CFPB has a special way of funding it, right? But the
funding method has been challenged because it's constitutional.
Yeah, from the banks. Yeah, they've been trying to. The banks that have been trying to be been regulated, right? They don't like it, and so they've been challenging it on all grounds.
All right, let's just slow down. We're trying to get to the truth here.
Sure.
So when I asked, and you said CFPB is an agency, not a department, I thought you were the point you were trying to make contextually was this one may be shut down, but doesn't qualify because Congress didn't apportion funds for it. The question was, if
Congress created it.
If Congress says this money is for this thing, Trump must have that thing happen. He controls how that thing does happen, but it has to happen. CFPB is not given funds by Congress, which has been challenged, so it's nebulous. This is hard. Hard to adjudicate.
Okay, fine, sure. I disagree that it's any different in terms of like how our government actually works, but we can just move on to USAID. If USAID is getting its funds directly from Congress, then it counts for USAID, right? Or any other department. Like, it's literally the same principle. But if you want to talk about the technicality, because again, yes, the CFPB is protected because they didn't. When it was created, it was hidden. It was structured in a way so it couldn't easily be shut down. Apparently, that was wrong. Well, if you go through an unconstitutional manner, of course you can easily shut it down. In any case,
so if he totally guts USAID and puts like Trump AID in there instead or whatever, I'm just making something up, and it does the exact same job, like wouldn't that fulfill the obligation to spend the money on that thing?
Yeah, it might.
So then it's not unconstitutional. You got it.
If Han,
you can replace it with something.
If it's will it be replaced?
I mean,
because
maybe
the point here was to shrink the government. So what you're telling me now is that now they're not going to shrink the government.
Make it more efficient.
No. They like to shrink the federal government. They've talked about that many times. Let's not bullshit that. Okay, so it's not about replacing this with something else, right?
That's
one thing. Yeah, but they're not doing that. So stop making that up.
So I think I'll just give my final thoughts. Largely, when we say things like, if a department has one bad person, don't gut it. If a department has a mass majority of corruption, gut it. The issue is largely just how we see the world in these institutions. And it's why I believe that there's not going to be a reconciliation. There's not going to be a coming together of either side. My view, especially reading now about CFPB, is I was, I'm learning a lot here as DOGE does its thing. Notably, that Congress has created extra constitutionally agencies. What I mean by extra outside of the confines of the Constitution, they have created agencies that are independent of the government. And the excuse they made in the 70s when they started creating these things, not all of them, but some of them, was that they should be free from political influence. But you know what that means? It means it's outside of democracy. Mm-hmm. The CFPB was intentionally done this way. It operates outside of the executive branch and Congress, which is shockingly insane, as does the Federal Reserve.
Tim, do you
this is not democracy.
This is that for the Inspector General's office, right? We shouldn't have Inspector Generals who are independent from
political processes. No.
You don't think the Inspector General?
No one should be independent from politics. Politics is the marketplace by which people.
Amen.
But that's the judiciary, right? Like the Supreme Court is supposed to be independent from politics, right? That's why they have the lifetime.
They're not. That is not correct.
Of course they are. Hold on.
That is
what do you mean?
No, absolutely.
So only
they are independent.
So you're making a semantic argument.
Sorry. Okay.
Supreme Court justices don't get elected; they get appointed.
They get appointed.
The president of the executive branch will appoint, and Congress must approve.
Isn't that the Inspector Generals as well? They get appointed. They don't just appear out of the
point is, we have three branches. The judiciary is not free from politics. They have to. A president gets elected, and most people actually vote solely on the Supreme Court justices.
Sure.
Then Congress can say yes or no. So the Supreme Court justices are free from the electoral process, but they are politically appointed and politically approved.
Okay, so same thing with the Inspector Generals then.
Hold on. The reason why we do it this way, the Supreme Court gets a lifetime appointment so that there is a stability in judicial review. Mm-hmm. The president gets 4 years, the House gets 2, senators get 6. This country, in my opinion, has become a hodgepodge of duct tape in many ways, notably with agencies operating outside of the confines of government. That makes literally no sense. Mm-hmm. Well, DOGE is an executive branch department. It's not outside the government.
Hold on, but no, those other things were outside the government. Hold on.
CFPB literally... Okay, no, hold on. This is a fact statement. Sure. I am not making this up.
Okay.
One of the big questions right now that sparked a lot of controversy was Donald Trump asserting executive authority over departments that were told or were said to be independent of the president. One of these is CFPB, which is operating outside of the executive branch and Congress. This is, in my view, insanely unconstitutional. The purpose of a political process is quite literally, we can impeach Supreme Court justices. We can fundamentally alter agencies that we believe are doing wrong or doing right or just need improvement, whatever it may be.
Who appoints the head of the CFPB?
What?
Who appoints the head of the CFPB?
The president does.
The president does. Oh, really? We just like with the Supreme
right.
Court?
And
so they're operating outside.
And who gets to fire employees that are bad?
The president can, but that's different from shutting down or agency or whatever. Yeah.
So the president can fire these people. Right now, it is largely Democrats resisting executive authority over what should be branches operating under the executive authority. Trump has sole executive authority as the president. It is insane to me that at any point ever...
He can't do anything he wants, though, right? He has...
Under executive authority.
No, he can't do anything he wants under executive... He can't torture like members of his branch, right? Just because he wants to. He has to work within the bounds of the law. If he's not doing that now, then
I gotta
that's
pause
the
you
issue.
there.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think you're familiar with the NDAA signed by Obama in 2012.
Please tell me.
Donald Trump can literally take anybody he wants and torture them offshore in a military rig.
Then that should be illegal as well.
I completely agree. Which is my point. Over a long period of time, this country has become a hodgepodge of duct tape with insane things in it. Barack Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act indefinite detention provision, which allows a president with sole executive authority to rendition literally anyone in the world, anywhere they want, indefinitely. Insanity.
Tim, then
George W. Bush.
We're going to find some agreement here, right? The thing that I was trying to drive to that I never got to is the point of DOGE, right? And not going through Congress. Because like you just saw, there is a process to do exactly what he's talking about. But he's not using that process.
No. You're misconstruing things. Trump has not issued a deferral or rescission.
Impoundment Act. Yes, exactly.
No. Trump has not engaged in rescission or deferral.
Yes, exactly. He hasn't followed the Impoundment Act. That would be the process.
No, hold on. Deferral is specifically if Trump said, the funding appropriated to Congress shall be deferred 1 year by sending a letter to Congress. He has not deferred anything.
I know. I agree. I don't know why you keep repeating that. I know that.
The Impoundment Act has nothing to do with what DOGE is doing.
No, I'm saying that DOGE is the end run around the Impoundment Act. That's what I'm saying, right? That we have a process to do that. What I'm saying is that
you're arguing. Okay, sure. So the issue then is you are saying perhaps there should be new first. There should be judicial review of what he's doing to see if it violates the Impoundment Act.
Sure.
Because he's not issued deferral or rescission.
Sure.
He has quite literally not frozen funds or rescinded the funds. Then we would need new legislation to specifically state here the parameters by which this is called a check and a balance. That's why we have a legislative branch.
Yeah.
So far right now, the argument is purely political, stating in the future we should operate like this.
We don't need
what you're doing right now.
No. It's not purely political, right? I'm talking about the actual process. We have a process. He's outside that the bounds of that process. That's it.
You're wrong.
Okay. Well,
real quick. Donald Trump. Okay. You keep citing the Impoundment Act. I'm going to say it again. Rescission. The president says, I hereby rescind these funds. They will not be used for this purpose. Deferral. The president says, I hereby put a stay on these funds for 1 year so we can review based on these criteria. Mm-hmm. Trump has not frozen or rescinded those funds.
I know.
Which means the legal confines of the Impoundment Act do not apply to terminations.
Of course it does, because the Impoundment Act is to say that, the Impoundment Act says the president can't do that unilaterally, right?
No,
it has to go through.
Okay, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try one more time.
You can try it again.
Firing an employee is not a declaration of deferral of funding.
If the acts of Congress don't actually get done.
So in 1 year, in 1 year, we will revisit that conversation.
Yeah, okay. All right, then we'll do that in 1 year.
We're not even at
Trump's first 100 days yet. And then you can argue Trump did not.
So the final thing, right? I think this is an act of the unitary executive theory.
I agree with some of that.
Of course you do, right? It basically means, right, that under the president, right, they have complete control of the executive, right? And it's unchecked power. That's the unitary executive theory.
No, it's not.
That's exactly what it is.
No. I'm saying the Constitution, you have a check and a balance. The judiciary reviews the actions of the executive.
Yeah,
but
and
Trump has a single authority. He can't do these things.
No, I'm saying that under the unitary executive theory, right, it's the point is to undermine those checks and balances.
Well, I don't know if that's
I say
true.
DOGE is one of the processes they're using to undermine it. They have a process. They go through Congress. Congress, right? And they have a Republican Congress that will actually do these things. They have said we want to cut these things, but they're not doing it. They don't want to cut Social Security.
hold on,
right? And so
Prad,
they don't want to cut Social Security, right? So they'll have DOGE do it instead. But we have a process to do exactly that.
The Impoundment Act, right? Right. So this is part of the whole thing. Why people in my camp voted for Trump is all right. It's clear that we can get shit done, right? Trump has opened up
the law. Yes.
No, it's not breaking the law. He's followed all court orders. He's come out at a breakneck pace. He's secured border. He's started DOGE. He's done these other things. And so when I look at this, we're only 6 weeks in or 7 weeks now, and Trump has already done so much stuff. We're at like arguably $105 billion saved or $65 billion or whatever. But my point is this. My point is this, right? Like they're sitting here, and when we see this, it's clear that the bureaucracy has been holding us back, and Trump is going in there gutting it. And when I go,
another way for the bureaucracy are the things that people voted for. Hold on, didn't we vote for that other stuff before? Hold on. When you talked about democracy and what people voted for, people voted to have the Department of Education. They voted for the CFPB, right? They voted for all these the Veterans Affairs Office. They voted for all those things.
Right now,
and those things are being under.
We do have to wrap up because we're going a little long. But I do think you made a really great point when I asked which laws were broken. You said the Impoundment Act. The issue, of course, being that to the letter of the law, Trump didn't break that law. However, you choose to interpret it that way because your opinion is that Trump firing people is an end run around the Impoundment Act because he is eliminating employees that should be able to get the job done, thus effectively deferring the funding because now it's not going to be utilized properly. This is why my final thoughts on this are the left over the past 15, 20 years has engaged in the ethos of there is no truth but power. Mm-hmm. This was the words of the late David Graeber, not me, that the left has adopted the fascistic ethos.
What is that?
What?
Could you explain who that person is?
David Graeber. He was called the anarchist anthropologist. He was a professor and he was a prominent progressive and one of the organizers of Occupy Wall Street.
Okay, thank you.
He passed away a few years ago. But before he died, he had this long thread on Twitter, it was Twitter at the time, that the left has adopted fascistic ethos, namely, there is no truth but power. And so what we've been seeing is, for instance, with Donald Trump's the documents case, his home was raided, his wife and his child's bedroom were raided, and they tried to prosecute him under this. Joe Biden, however, his ghostwriter explicitly stated, on the record, Biden was recorded saying he had illegally retained national security documents as vice president for the purpose of writing a book to make money. There was no prosecution against Joe Biden. There was against Donald Trump. The statement that Donald Trump violated the Impoundment Act, I do believe, rather exemplifies the crisis we're having in this country in that, to the letter of the law, Donald Trump did not. He did not publicly declare a deferral of funds or a rescission of funds. He fired a bunch of people. The interpretation for you and many on the left would be, you see, he is breaking the law. We deem it so by our interpretation. By the spirit of the law, he has broken it, not by the letter. So the challenge we then have is, the left is, there's no truth but power. We will interpret the law and we will enforce it as we see it, not what the law actually states. Donald Trump is doing an end run, whereas the right has continually played this, yeah, we're not going to do that because we can't. And several examples of that are the Summer of Love riots where the White House was firebombed. We got no M29 hearings or committee. There was no investigation into the 100+ people who were throwing the firebombs and setting fire to churches. The mass riots that resulted in 30+ deaths, all of it ignored. And this was under Trump's administration. The right does not engage in these no truth but power games for the most part, though sometimes they do. The left has a tendency to do so. My ultimate point is, there's not going to be an agreement as to whether or not what Trump is doing fits or does not fit within the confines, because we fully expect the liberal establishment and whatever's left of it, there's no Democratic Party leader, to utilize the law however they see fit to make sure that their political enemies are destroyed. For instance, the racketeering charges against Jenna Ellis in Georgia for simply representing Donald Trump. She was charged with 2 counts of racketeering. All she did was provide legal advice to a man who hired her to do so. And in Georgia, they tried putting her in prison, to which she cried on TV and apologized for doing so. They did this in, I believe it was Wisconsin as well, targeting the lawyers, the legal representation of a sitting president. We have seen 2 left-aligned individuals try to assassinate the man, not to mention the Iranian plot, but that's here nor there. Mm-hmm. You've got terror attacks against Tesla. I perceive this as Republicans are going to continually be weak. However, And the left will continually either obfuscate, defend, engage in extra legal practices, target lawyers, shut down speech. Let's just start from the beginning. Let's go quick. The censorship wave of major corporations throughout the 2010s in big tech with left-aligned individuals working with federal intelligence agencies, shutting down largely conservative personalities was denied by the corporate press, finally admitted to by now Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, and the whole lot of them. They now acknowledge, yeah, they actually did that. We have evidence from actually left-leaning publications in which the intelligence agencies had back doors into Facebook. This is from The Intercept and X to submit for review things they wanted taken down. It is now a known fact several years on that, yes, these institutions actually were censoring opinions, largely the conservative side. You then have the Summer of Love riots, the Antifa riots, the 90 plus days of firebombing of federal buildings by far leftists, to which Kamala Harris and Joe Biden solicited funding to help these individuals get out of jail.
True.
Then you have January 6th, the one time that we have of great merit, not the only time I'm saying. The firebombing of the White House and St. John's Church should have resulted in mass committee hearings and mass arrests. J6 did, and we got years of hearings. The lopsidedness of enforcement and aggression in this country is apparent to anybody who follows the news. For example, Joe Biden in the Burisma scandal. Joe Biden said illegally to a president of a foreign nation, this one's for you. Congress approved federal loan guarantees to Ukraine, and Joe Biden flew there and told the president, I am going to block that as vice president unless you make a political move that I demand. The firing of a state prosecutor, Viktor Shokin, who is currently investigating, among other things, Mykola Zlochevsky, the founder of the Burisma Energy Company, for which Joe Biden's son was on the board. Call it whatever you want. At the bare minimum, it was a conflict of interest. When Donald Trump called the president and said, what is this all about? I want this investigated. He was impeached for it and accused of a quid pro quo. By all means, say Donald Trump was guilty. Joe Biden should be guilty all the same. But for some reason, enforcement only went in one direction. What we have today is for the first time that I have seen in 20 years, the right, the Republican side has said it is time to wield power. And what have they done? Fired people. And the reaction from the left is it's a threat to our democracy. He's destroying our democracy. He must be stopped. Okay, the reason I think Donald Trump won is because nobody liked the Summer of Love riots. Nobody liked the 30 plus deaths. Nobody liked the firebombing of the White House, and nothing was done about it at all. Nobody likes that they're paying taxes at all, regardless of whether they're good or bad. Nobody wants to fund foreign wars. The Democrats have become the party of the military-industrial complex at the top level, not the progressives, in their support for Israel.
Agreed.
As party-wide, their support for Ukraine, including the progressives.
Okay.
That is the largest funding right now of the military-industrial complex,
Sure.
and it is supported across the board. The right has become what I would call the Horde in reference to World of Warcraft, a hodgepodge of various groups who've only aligned against the quote-unquote alliance of established power structures.
They also support Israel.
They're largely at the establishment level, but I would imagine that both sides...
Lots of evangelicals are power based, like it supports
right.
Israel, of course.
Both the left and the right have their anti-Israel faction.
Fair enough.
And absolutely, Donald Trump will give Israel whatever they want. However, the side that has the larger anti-war sentiment and element is, of course, the Republican side. So what we see right now is the principal positions of the right. We want chemicals out of our food. There are some people on the left who want that, though R.F. Kennedy Jr. was rejected by every single Democrat when he was up for appointment. And what is RFK Jr.'s position? We should have better science, better reviews. And they called him an anti-vaxxer, and they called him all these other things. And then he puts out an op-ed saying, please get the vaccine, which is insane. It's insane that people criticized him for that when he was never anti-vax, is what I mean. RFK Jr. represents the let's get healthy, which used to be a left Democrat position. It was the big corporations aligned with libertarian billionaires that didn't care that we had chemicals. You've got Tulsi Gabbard, a large anti-war personality, critical of U.S. spending and foreign policy and the bombings in Syria, et cetera. And they called her pro-Russia for it because she was critical of us engaging in regime change wars across the Middle East. So you've got the anti-war element, the health element, and you've got the make America, the reduce the size of government element. On the Democrat side, you have... I would call it also additionally a strange hodgepodge, but you have support overtly for the military-industrial complex at the highest levels.
Absolutely.
Broad support for the military-industrial complex at the progressive to large levels, which is Ukraine, which received more. Ukraine received more funding than Israel has in 70 years. So if you're talking about the principal funding, the largest recipient of military-industrial complex support is Ukraine. Nothing else comes close. Even Vietnam, I think, was only $70 billion. Israel has right now, after 70 years, has already been surpassed by Ukraine in 2, which is nuts. The Democrats largely supported mass corporations. They largely now support war. They oppose the health operations, and they support bureaucratic institutions, which most people can't understand what's currently going on. My view here is, now I'm ranting, but I'll just finish by saying this. When you've got prominent punk rock bands that used to be anti-war, now pro-Ukraine, it appears that the democratic institution has crumbled for a reason, and that is it is hypocritical and doesn't seem to be at all representing any core ideology. The ultimate point I'm trying to make is no one's going to agree. The Democrats are going to continue to say might makes right, and the right is going to continue to say, but we're literally watching these things happen. The difference now is through the collapse of the corporate narrative machine and the rise of podcasts, Donald Trump was able to win. And now you actually have people who want actions to happen happening. And of course, the Democrats still maintain might makes right, so we'll do what we want.
Yeah, I'll just give you my final thought, right? And it's pretty simple. There's the age-old expression when you look at organized crime, is that they get more violent and they get louder the closer you get to hitting their money. And it seems to me it's crazy that the reaction to DOGE by the left in general has been like terror attacks on Tesla, has been outrage over all the stuff that's been going down. And to me, it seems like it's because they're hitting the money and there's some kind of nasty onion that we need to pull back the layers. And, I just... The visceral just hatred, and they're sitting here, they're calling him President Musk, they're calling him, a Nazi, they're calling him all these different things. And I'm just going, well, there's got to be something up. And every time he goes and clears something out, it's just no matter what he does, it's bad, even if it's not bad. And
even when he took out the leader of ISIS.
Yeah, terrible.
I believe it was Ezra Klein who said something to the effect of the fact that Democrats can't give Trump one good day effectively disproves their I'll paraphrase, but the fact that Trump couldn't get one good day at all for killing a man who was kidnapping young girls and raping them and leading a terror organization in the Middle East, something that even Obama spoke out against, shows there is no ethos or ideology behind their actions. It is simply might makes right.
Or yeah, when he turned General Salami into salami, I mean, a big fan of that. He, crippled Iran's terror organizations through the Revolutionary Guard, but crippled them, and nobody ever wanted to give him credit for that.
But these are things the Democrats, based on their positions today, should have supported. This is the issue.
Insanity.
Donald Trump takes out the quote unquote austere scholar in ISIS, and he was still heavily criticized for it. He takes out the leader of terror operations in the Middle East.
That happened in Iraq, though. If I'm remembering with the General Salam thing,
yeah, it happened
in Iraq. That was, if I remember correctly, and it's been a long time, right? That was the issue. That not that he took him out because we attack Iran all the time, right? But that we took him out on Iraqi territory. But
see, that's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
We
violating
Barack. Oh, let's play the game, buddy. Barack Obama murdered a 16-year-old in Yemen.
I agree with you. 100%.
And where is the outrage over what Biden was doing and what Obama was doing?
Plenty of outrage on the left. I agree with you in terms of liberals. I 100% agree with you in terms of their support of Israel. Right? It's been completely undermining anything they've talked about in terms of the
let me pause you because my point is. Yeah. When Democrats defended and cheered for Obama murdering people, children in Yemen,
was wrong. Yeah.
They don't care. I'm not talking about you or the progressives. I'm saying the Democrat establishment,
agreed,
that is supposed to be the other side of this conflict, are mad at Trump for killing Soleimani while celebrating or defending Barack Obama for murdering literal children in countries we are not at war with.
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
And that is the principal issue.
We both have anti-establishment views then. Okay.
It is. That's why I said I'll tell you one of the problems I have with the progressives is their support for Ukraine, which makes literally no sense.
Okay.
But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, sure.
Instead of me interrupting and ranting like I should, we should wind things down. So if you guys want to take the final thoughts.
Go ahead, Pride.
Okay. DOGE is a disaster in terms of constitutionality. It violates the Congress's ability to decide where funds go, and it undermines various other laws and regulations. There are going to be we're gonna figure this out in court. I think that there's lots of things that we didn't get to, right? Because we got distracted by immigration, unfortunately. But we didn't get to Elon Musk's like endless conflicts of interest, right? Like for instance, like undermining other companies' contracts, right? So he starts firing people in the FAA, and then he decides, oh, the FAA is using this system, is deciding to go to Verizon to get this communication system. I'm going to get that contract canceled, or it's going to mysteriously cancel itself. And then Starlink instead is going to take that contract. Interesting, right? I think the DOGE does a bad job in giving Trump the information, right? So if DOGE is just an advisory board, right, which people claim, which is bullshit, right? But if it's just an advisory board and it's giving Trump information to then act, then it's doing a bad job. We can see that with the Social Security Administration, right? Talking about those tens of millions of people, right, over 150 getting checks. That was a lie. Right, that was a lie. Not even a lie. I think it's because they were so stupid. They didn't understand exactly how those government databases worked. Right, it was literally just a quirk of programming. But we see this all the time in terms of errors. So it's not efficient, and that it makes mistakes all the goddamn time. It requires other people to error check it, right? It has tried to ensconce itself in secrecy in terms of like hiding from FOIA requests, pretending it's not an agency, but then pretending it is an agency. Donald Trump saying that Elon Musk is in charge of DOGE, but then not in charge of DOGE, and so is this Amy Gleason person no one's ever heard of, right? This is a whole process to undermine our democracy. Rather than going through Congress, rather than going through the normal process that we have set up, we have DOGE, right? And you can say it's getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, right? But one, DOGE is deciding what is waste, fraud, and abuse. Some of that we can agree with, and there's a lot of it that we can't, right? But it should be handled through our legislative process. That's the process that we have. And so undermining that is a problem. This is an act of the unitary executive theory, right? This is to undermine the checks and balances so that the executive has unchecked power. This is exactly the plan. Russ Vought, right, who's now the head of Office of Budget and Management, I believe. He is another person who's been pushing unitary executive theory, right? So there is in his Attorney General Barr, right, from his first term, right, actively talked about the unitary executive theory. All of this is in line with that. Russ Vought is important. He's critical to actually accomplishing this plan. So I'm against that. I like the checks and balances. The checks and balances that Tim apparently says that he still values. If you do, well, then you won't like DOGE. I appreciate you, Tim, for inviting me on the
Thanks for coming. This has been fun.
Well, first, big fan of everything Trump's done. Trump said we get tired of winning. Not tired yet. It's been every day. It's breakneck wins. I just can't even keep track. Elon, if you happen to watch this, hey, why don't you go check out the ATF? We'd be huge fans of that. As far as I know, nobody likes the ATF. But moving on, love what he's doing. Hope he keeps up the good work. Big fan of all of those things. The government's clearly bloated. I think the fact that we're getting this visceral reaction from the Dems is indicative that there is corruption. I think that we're going to find more and more. It's just crazy to me. But yeah, shout out to Prime for helping set this up. Thanks for having us, Tim. And shout out to Modi and Wick. I wouldn't be streaming and doing any of this without them.
Where can people find you?
You can find me every day, Monday through Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Central as Admiral Gibbs on pretty much every platform.
Sure. You can find me on twitch.tv and youtube.com at PrimeKai, PrimeCayes. Love to have you. We just stream on Mondays and Thursdays, but we're expanding our streams, right? We want to do more content. So please check us out. Love to have you. And you'll find Gibbs here. So you like Gibbs, you'll find more of Gibbs. We argue all the time, and I prove him wrong all the time.
Something like that. I don't know if I've ever been proved right. They call me the political prophet because I'm always right. It's crazy.
Thanks, gentlemen. It's been great. Thanks for hanging out. I wish we had more time. But in the future, we're planning on doing these live with an audience and bringing up people on stage. So I'd love to have you guys back. It'd be great.
Love it.
And in about, a month and a half, we're playing our first show. And we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. So we'll see what happens. And hopefully you guys as members may actually come up and sit at the table and yell at one of these two fine gentlemen. Or, depending. He's really excited for that. Yeah, the idea is for those that are members of the Timcast Discord, we want to have about 40 seats in the audience. And members of the audience submit their debate talking point on the core issue. So we'd present them DOGE, for or against. Then we're going to try and do split between half for, half against. People will present their arguments. We'll look through them. And if they're not very good, then we're going to be like, okay, we're not going to pay this person, but we're not going to be mean. But then we want to bring people up, have them sit down in the chair, and give them a few minutes to debate.
That's a really cool idea. I've been working in like on my own. I've been doing like a formal debates where there's like a winner and loser, and we have rankings and whatnot. And I think that there's definitely space in this industry for what you're describing.
I think the issue is we want to decentralize the ability for people to be loud.
Sure.
And there's probably a lot of people we've never heard of who are smarter than all of us combined, and they're just not marketing people. They're intelligent philosophers and researchers, and they could sit here and explain to all of us why we're all wrong.
Yeah.
And then come up with some really crazy idea. So that's the goal.
I like it.
But that's the future, my friends. We're going to be back tonight at Timcast IRL, 8 p.m. with a bunch of news. It's getting crazy out there. The swattings, they're getting crazy. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see y'all then.